Oh my god, I was muted. Ugh. Well, that's okay. Nobody missed anything. Just that I was fixing the chat to make it longer instead of, like, thicker. I think it should be smaller still, but longer still. Howdy! Howdy, partner! Okay, so I once again messed around with my mic settings. So if it's weird, that's why. Hopefully it's not too weird. And you can listen to me nicely. I think it gets weird if I turn my head like to the side or something like this. I don't actually know. I'm making that up. Hi, Strong Man! It's so fun to see what new people's Animal Crossing character, their assigned Animal Crossing character at birth. It's so funny. Oh, I forgot to make Snickle Fritz the Piero. Oh well. Oh well. Let me take a sippy. So guys, I have become Krichara. You're a hippopotamus. If you wanna re-roll, you can redeem it in the channel points, and then you can re-roll, and you can get a new Krichara. So, I don't think there's anything new that I haven't talked about from last stream except the fumblings with the mic, trying to get the right settings, etc., etc. I have this new little buddy on the side. You see him? He's a cat. I decided that on my warrior cat streams, I would have him be here normally and his cat self. Because in my other scenes, he's Snickle Fritz. I cropped out the cat so that only the dialogue is viewable on the other scenes. So I thought because it's Warrior Cat Wednesdays, I'll have real cat in the flesh. So we have that little guy. We have the new chat. I think that's all. Kari gifted me Dave the Diver, so that's exciting. And I saw this new game on Steam that I favorited. Let me see if it was like on the front page, and it looked really cool. It was like piratey or something. Or maybe not piratey? Wait, where is it? Is it all the way at the bottom? No. Oh my gosh, I should get the rice counting. Oh my gosh, I need that. There's this game and you count rice. Like how many grains of rice are in a bowl. And I really, 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 really want to play it. Of course, I can't right now because I guess I could add it to my cart. Sticker tail, flutter. Wait, where's the game that I... Yellow taxi goes vroom. Oh, that looks really fun. Cool. I don't even remember. Oh my gosh, I had spirit tea on my wish list? I didn't even know that. Pocket mirror. Gibbon! Wavetail's out? Or maybe Wavetail was always out? Don't I have Hi-Fi Rush? Sunnyside. Whoa. Have a nice death. I think I have that one too. I'm a Buriel. I wanted to pop in and say hi because in like 15 minutes I will be turning my brain into mush for a bit. I hope you're okay. I hope that's like in a good way? Question mark? Not in a... Oh, I found it. On guard. It's on sale. Quasso! Thank you for the Quasso pride. Yeah, it's like a sword fighting game. The swishbuckler action game. Battle graceless guards and nefarious noblemen in fast-paced fights full of spectacle. Use the environment, your wit, and your blade to teach them all a lesson. Deep galactic while listening to Great Cat's Village. Ooh. I don't know what Great Cat's Village is. But if it's about cats, I'm glad. It just looks so cool. It's like sword fighting intense. And you can like throw buckets on people's heads. I think it would be really fun to play. Neko. I think you are supposed to spell it with a K. Neko. Is this a Korean game? That's cool. It's made by the same people of Sifu. Oh. The art is really pretty. Hello! Hi, Kiriko! Hello, Kiriko! Today we're doing reading stream. So it's not a very exciting stream or anything. It's a more of like a I have work to do and I'm gonna listen to some warrior cat readings. Thank you for the follow! Welcome to the popcorn bucket. Alright. I'm gonna lower this a little bit. Just in case. What can I call you? I'm No-No! I'm No-No. No-No Noel. I need Maxwell in boxes. What the? Oh, you're Roscoe! Oh boy, it's Warrior Cats Day. Hi, Cordy! Man, I miss you guys. I was like, wasn't streaming very much for like a whole week. I don't think I was at all. And it's nice to see you guys again. Snickle Fritz, Snickle Fritz. Okay, I really need to change Snickle Fritz's, but I don't want to do that right now. You guys will have to remind me after stream to change Snickle Fritz. It's good to see you back. Thank you! How about Nono-san? You can know that. That's fine. That's all good. Maxwell in boxes. Are you actively playing Animal Crossing Pride? You know, guys, I was tempted. I am still tempted to... Pesuto! Pesuto, thank you! Thank you for the red Tomb Raider. Oh my gosh. Let me out of England. England. Thank you. I hope you had a fun time playing Tomb Raider 3. The third. Tomb Raider the third. Raiding your tomes and tomes. Tombs and tomes. Tomes and tombs. Thank you! We're reading Warrior Cats Day. If you don't know who I am, I'm Noel. The England levels sucked. Aw, dang. Are they like hard or is it just like England? And that's why it sucked. Both! That's real. You're real for that. I think that's okay. So, what happened last time? Alright, so usually on my Warrior Cat streams, when I first start, I summarize what happened previously on Warrior Cats. So, previously on Warrior Cats Twilight, let me scroll up. Oh, they had a gathering. They've decided where they're gonna meet now. There's this big island in the middle of the lake, and last book there was a big thing of lightning struck a tree and killed a cat, and then also created a bridge. So it was like this all meaningful thing, and so now the cats can cross the bridge onto the island, and they can have their gathering there. One Star is now the leader of Wind Clan. He's kind of trying to distance himself from Firestar and ThunderClan and establish himself as his own clan and kind of like make a ground. Unfortunately, that made Firestar very sad. He was pretty sad about it. So that sucked for Firestar. Everyone else pretty much understood it. Brambleclaw's still being a little suspicious. He's hanging around a lot with Hawkfrost despite everything. Squirrelflight doesn't trust him. And Leafpool doesn't trust Hawkfrost, but she's still trusting Brambleclaw. And he's in he's in a weird position. I think he's getting tricked. Leafpool has been bombarded with the fact that Crowfeather in the last book confessed his love to her. And I think she said it back. I can't remember actually. But they haven't been able to see each other since the love confession. And Crowfeather has been trying to meet her, but hasn't been able to. And Leafpool's also been trying to see him, but hasn't been able to. So it's up in arms. Should we go refreshments? Have a good refreshment break. You deserve your rest. Think of the game telling you to go through the same section, doing it several times for some progress, backtracking everywhere, and also dealing with following your death. Oh no. It's like a maze, but worse. Quazzle! Thank you for the quazzle! Thank you for the quazzle! I'm running out of iced tea already. So that's pretty much what happened in the previous chapters. I think there's been they're a little bit worried about something that's gonna potentially happen, but they're not sure. Leafpool had a prophecy about how blood will spill blood and the lake will run red. But they don't know what. Rowling. Again! Oh, you're a gorilla now. It is quite satisfying, isn't it? I also noticed that the color of your chat of your name and the little thing on the bottom is the same color as your villager. So when you were that bear, it matched the bear, and when you were the monkey, it matched the monkey, and then you're the horse, it matched a horse. It's quite cool. All right, I'm gonna start reading, everybody. Oh, I see. Okay. Chapter 6. Oh, that's a nice, good color. Leafpool stayed sitting down as her sister and Ashfur headed into the bushes towards the lake shore. She gazed across the clearing to where she had last seen Crowfeather. She spotted the Wind Clan cat at once. He was looking straight back at her. Leafpool glanced around. Other cats moved in the shadows. Brambles behind her rustled as they pushed through them on their way back to the tree bridge. No cat seemed to be paying much attention to her. She started to circle the clearing, keeping to where the moonlight threw deep shadows. Leafpool! She started to circle the clearing, keeping to where the moonlight threw deep shadows. Oh. Sorry, I reread that. Blah, blah. You got Goldie! The young medicine cat froze, feeling her pelt tingle with frustration. She took a deep breath before turning around. Yes, Cinderpelt? Come on, you're being left behind. Leafpool narrowed her eyes. Her clanmates had only just left the clearing. Was Cinderpelt deliberately keeping her away from Crowfeather? Okay, Cinderpelt, I'm coming. Leafpool shot a glance over her shoulder and saw Crowfeather watching her with anguish in his eyes. Leafpool knew she couldn't do anything but follow Cinderpelt into the bushes. I'm a medicine cat, she told herself as she ducked under the prickly branches. I can't love Crowfeather. and he can't love me. She repeated it over and over, all the way back to the ThunderClan camp, but all she could think of was the look in Crowfeather's eyes. Hi, Derpy Star! Kitty cats, meow meow. A sweet scent drifted around Leafpool and a voice murmured her name. At first she thought Spotted Leaf was calling to her. The former ThunderClan medicine cat had often come to her in dreams. But when she blinked open her eyes, the cat standing in front of her was a silvery gray pelt, and eyes of clearest blue. Starlight sparkled around her paws and at the ends of her whiskers. Leafpool stared at her, bewildered. Feathertail? Beyond her nest among the brambles outside Cinderpelt's den, the hollow was bathed in a silvery light. But several days had passed since the gathering, and the moon was waning. Leafpool knew she was dreaming. She stood up. What is it, Feathertail? She guessed Feathertail had come to speak to her about Crowfeather. A pang of guilt shot through her. Feathertail and Crowfeather had loved each other so much, but the beautiful RiverClan she-cat had given up her life to save the tribe and her friends from the fierce lion cat Sharptooth. Was she angry that Crowfeather had fallen in love with another cat? I'm sorry, Leafpool stammered. Feathertail swept her tail across Leafpool's mouth. We need to talk, but not here. Follow me. She led the way into the clearing. Leafpool tried to walk as lightly as if she were stalking a mouse. Then she wondered if the clan could hear her when this was only a dream. A bright, unearthly light flooded the hollow. Brightheart and Sootfur, on watch, looked like cats made of stone, their coats the color of moonlight. Neither stirred as Feathertail and Leafpool crept past them and out through the thorn tunnel. Once they were several fox lengths away from the camp, Feathertail found a comfortable spot in a clump of long grass and settled down, gesturing with her tail for Leafpool to join her. I can guess what you're thinking, she meowed. You think I'm angry about Crowfeather, don't you? Leafpool blinked at her, too ashamed to admit to her suspicion. You think I wouldn't be happy to see him happy? Feathertail asked gently. You make him happy. I can see that. I'm a medicine cat, Leafpool protested. Her fur tingled with delight that Feathertail wasn't angry. More than that, she seemed to want Leafpool and Crowfeather to be together, but she knew it was more complicated than that. I wish I could make him happy, but I can't. That's not why I'm here, Feathertail told her. There's something I need you to do. Leafpool pricked her ears. What? It's Mothwing. Feathertail's expression clouded. I have an important message for her, but I can't reach her. Leafpool felt icy water trickle down her spine, making her fur stand on end. When the clans first came to the lake, the RiverClan medicine cat had confessed to Leafpool that she didn't believe in StarClan. At first, Leafpool had been stunned. How could a medicine cat carry out her duties without the guidance of their warrior ancestors? But she agreed to keep her friend's secret because she knew Mothwing was truly committed to caring for her clan, and she knew as much about herbs as any other medicine cat. But she should have known that StarClan saw into the heart of every cat. There was no hiding the truth from them. A shiver of alarm swept through Leafpool. Were StarClan angry with Mothwing? Could they stop her being a medicine cat? Would they be angry with Leafpool too for keeping Mothwing's secret? Mothwing's really good with healing herbs, she told Feathertail. And when she was an apprentice, she wanted to believe. I know, Feathertail meowed. We hoped that in time she could find faith in us, but she hasn't, so we can't speak to her or give her the message her clan needs. But, Leafpool hesitated. This was so hard to ask, but she had to know. But Mudfur waited for a sign for StarClan before he chose Mothwing to be his apprentice, and one morning he found a Mothwing outside his den. He took it as a sign that StarClan approved of his choice. Was he mistaken? Feathertail bent her head to lick her chest fur. You can't expect to understand the signs given to another cat, she replied when she looked up again. More briskly, she added, Leafpool, I need you to tell Mothwing something urgently. I can't reach her, so will you take a message to her? What would you like me to say? Leafpool knew she wouldn't refuse Feathertail's request. She would do anything to help Mothwing. Tell her River Clan are in serious danger from Two Legs. Two Legs? Leafpool cocked her head, puzzled. But we haven't seen any Two Legs yet. Surely they won't come until Greenleaf. I can't tell you any more, except that the danger is to River Clan alone. But it is real, I promise you that. Will you go and warn Mothwing, please? Yes, of course. Feathertail gave Leafpool a single lick on the top of her head. Her sweet scent drifted around the younger cat. Thank you, Leafpool, she murmured. I know that if things had been different, you and I would have been good friends. Leafpool wanted to believe it, but they had been in different clans when Feathertail was alive. And what about Crowfeather? Would they both have wanted him? The scent faded. When Leafpool looked up, the beautiful silver tabby was gone, and she was waking for real in her nest outside Cinderpelt's den. Pale dawn light filled the clearing, although the sky was gray with cloud. As Leafpool yawned and stretched, Cinderpelt poked her head out and sniffed the air. Rain later, she commented. You better find Ashfur and check that his neck wound is okay. He's healing well, but there's still a risk of infection. Sure, Cinderpelt. As Leafpool set off to find the gray tomcat, she wondered how she could get away long enough to visit Mothwing and give her Feathertail's message. RiverClan's territory was on the opposite side of the lake, and she didn't think she could make it there and back before nightfall. Should she tell Cinderpelt about Feathertail's visit? No, that would mean betraying Mothwing's secret. That she didn't believe in StarClan. Mothwing would have given up being a medicine cat. Would have to give up being a medicine cat, and Leafpool didn't want that to happen. She spotted Ashfur pushing his way through the thorn tunnel with the Dawn Patrol. Hi there, he meowed. Are you looking for me? Yes, I've come to check on your wound. Leafpool parted Ashfur's fur with one paw. The deep puncture wound was scarcely visible. That's fine. I'll check in with Cinderpelt, but I don't think you need any more herbs on it. We'll keep an eye on it for a few more days, though. Great, mewed Ashfur. I'm lucky it wasn't infected, with that filthy creature's teeth in there. Well, let us know if you have any more trouble with it. Hi! Squirrelflight had deposited a couple of starlings on the fresh kill pile and bounded up to Ashfur and his sister. Leafpool, you'll never guess what we found on patrol. What? Squirrelflight's green eyes gleamed. Catmint! That's impossible. You only find catmint in two-leg gardens. Leafpool's heart sank into her paws. Don't tell me you found two-leg nests on our territory. Oh, Mousebrain, you remember the abandoned two-leg nest that Brambleclaw and his patrol found? Leafpool nodded. Well, it's there. The two-legs must have had a garden once, but it's all overgrown now, and there are these enormous clumps. Only just coming up, but it's catmint all right. That's great. Catmint was by far the best remedy for white cough and the dreaded green cough that could be fatal to elders and kits. Back in the forest, there had been a steady supply in Two-Leg Place, but Leafpool hadn't expected to find any here. I'll tell Cinderpelt right away. Thanks, Squirrelflight. Halfway to her den, Leafpool realized this could be the answer to her problem. She paused briefly to decide what to say. Then she went to find the medicine cat. Cinderpelt was inside her den, checking the stores of herbs. Thanks StarClan New Leaf is coming, she meowed. We're down to our last poppy seed. I hope no cat gets ill for the next moon or so. Then you'll want to hear what Squirrelflight just told me, Leafpool told her about the discovery of catmint. Cinderpelt purred. Could you go and get some? Sure, Leafpool replied. I'll have a good nose around and see if there's anything else worth having. She was about to dart out of the den, but Cinderpelt stopped her. Do you think you should take a warrior with you? Leafpool's heart sank. An escort was the last thing she wanted. Once she might have considered taking Sorreltail, who had shared adventures with her in the past, but the young tortoiseshell had to rest now for the sake of her kits. I'll be fine, she promised Cinderpelt. That old nest is right in the middle of our territory, and we know the fox is gone. Okay, be careful though. Keep on the lookout for badgers. I will. She hurried across the clearing to the thorn tunnel before anyone else could ask what she was doing. She had never been to the abandoned nest before, but she knew it was near the overgrown two-leg path that led away from the stone hollow. Brambleclaw thought that two legs had once taken stone out of the hollow, leaving their marks on the cliffs, and used the path to carry it away. Leafpool didn't know if he was right, but the stony path made a good clear space where she could race along without being held up by undergrowth. The morning light was still casting long shadows through the woodland when she came to the two-legged nest. It was set back from the path, half hidden by sparse trees and thickets of bramble. A shiver went through Leafpool. Though Brambleclaw had described it to her, she hadn't known until now just how sinister the nest would feel. I'd rather face wild foxes than go in there, she thought. Warily, she examined the tumble-down walls and the saging piece of wood that once had blocked the entrance. Nothing moved, and when she tasted the air, there was no scent of two legs. However, she could pick out the scent of catmint, and she followed it until she found the clump Twlight had mentioned, not far away from the wall of the nest. Several stems were long enough to take now, and there would be plenty more later in New Leaf. Leafpool bit off a few stalks and padded away from the two-legged nest. Instead of following the path back to camp, she cut through the woods in a wide arc until she came to the stream that marked the border with WindClan. She told herself this was the best way to get around the lake because ShadowClan were more likely than WindClan to be hostile if they found her on their territory. Slipping along the shelter of the bushes, with her ears pricked for patrols from either clan, Leafpool followed the stream until she came to the shallow place where ThunderClan had crossed when they first arrived in the territory. Before she went any farther, Leafpool paused to hunt. She soon brought down a vole that was scuffling in the reeds. She devoured it in a few bites, still listening for the sound of other cats. Then she crossed into WindClan territory. She followed the stream on the other side until she was within 2 foot lengths of the lake. Now she could breathe more easily. She was on medicine cap business, so she shouldn't encounter any trouble, even if WindClan warriors saw her. Wishing for the wind in her paws, she raced along the lake shore. At first, she cast anxious glances behind her, in case she was spotted by ThunderClan cats patrolling the stream. Then a fold of the hill hid her from her own territory. She slackened her pace to a brisk trot and began to think about what she was going to say to Mothwing. Suddenly, she stopped dead, her heart pounding. Would Mothwing take the warning seriously? When she didn't believe in StarClan? She has to, Leafpool told herself, forcing herself to keep going. The Othertail would be watching her from StarClan, and she had to keep her promise. Leafpool kept one eye on the moorland slopes, but there was no sign of any WindClan cats. There's no point in looking for Crowfeather. What would he even say to him if he were here? There was no sign of the kitty pets at the horse place either, but almost as soon as she passed the new RiverClan scent markings, Leafpool spotted a patrol approaching her from the higher grounds beyond the marsh. Mistyfoot was leading it, and Mosspelt and an apprentice Leafpool hadn't met before. Hi, Leafpool, Mistyfoot meowed as she came up. Is everything all right? Leafpool set down her stems of catmint. I've brought some herbs for Mothwing. Mistyfoot gave the leaves a good sniff. Catmint, she mewed approvingly. Thanks, Leafpool. I think Mothwing's in camp. You can come with us. We're just on our way back. Picking up her catmint again, Leafpool followed the patrol along the lake shore until they came to a stream. They turned inland and padded beside the swift-flowing shallow water until a smaller stream joined in on the far side. The land between the two was fringed with reeds and thick with bushes. Even through the scent of catmint, Leafpool could pick up the scents of many cats. Mistyfoot splashed across and jumped into the opposite bank. Welcome, she meowed. Leafpool picked her way more cautiously through the stream, wishing she were as confident in water as Mistyfoot and the other RiverClan cats. They passed a bramble thicket where Dawnflower, one of the RiverClan queens, was sunning herself with 3 kits scrambling over her flank. She acknowledged Leafpool with a wave of her tail. Further on, a couple of apprentices were wrestling in the shade of a clump of bracken. Leafpool spotted a well-stocked pile of fresh kill. You've settled in well, she commented to Mistyfoot, around the stems of catmint. Mistyfoot gave a satisfied nod. This is a good place. She led Leafpool to a spot where a thornbush overhung the narrower stream. The bank had fallen away, and the current had scored out a small round pool beneath the bush's roots. Where the earth had been washed away, a smooth-sided hole had been left in the bank. From the piled leaves and berries Leafpool could see inside, she realized this must be Mothwing's den. Mothwing was crouched on the bank above the pool, sorting through a pile of horsetail. Mothwing, you've got a visitor, Mistyfoot meowed. The golden tabby glanced up and sprang to her paws with a meow of delight. Leafpool, what are you doing here? I brought you this. Leafpool jumped down and laid her catmint stems in front of Mothwing, glancing back to thank Mistyfoot as the RiverClan deputy padded away. Catmint! Mothwing exclaimed. That's great. I haven't found any in our territory yet. Leafpool looked around to make sure Mistyfoot had really gone, and that no other cat was in earshot. This was her chance to pass on Feathertail's warning, but her fur pricked and her mouth felt dry. Something about this didn't feel right. Drawing closer to Mothwing, she mewed. Actually, the catmint is only one reason I came. I have a message for you from StarClan. Mothwing's blue eyes stretched wide. Leafpool suddenly wished she hadn't come. It might look like she was suggesting Mothwing couldn't be a proper medicine cat because the warning hadn't come to her directly. But Mothwing said nothing, just pricked her ears as she waited for Leafpool to finish. I had a dream, Mothwing told her. Feathertail came to me. She hesitated as she saw Mothwing's eyes flood with grief. Of course, since Feathertail had been a warrior in RiverClan, Mothwing would have known her well. She told me she couldn't get through to you. She asked me to bring you a message. RiverClan is in grave danger from Two Legs. The RiverClan medicine cat sat in silence for several heartbeats, her eyes thoughtful. 2 legs, she meowed at last. But there aren't any... She broke off and sprang to her paws. Leafpool, it's been so quiet along the small thunder path that we haven't bothered with it much. Maybe something has happened there. Will you come and check it out with me? Leafpool hesitated. She had meant to give Mothwing the message and go straight home. If she stayed much longer in RiverClan, she would probably have to spend the night there. But it was important to help Mothwing make sure that her territory held no danger. Yes, of course I'll come, she agreed, pushing aside the thought of scolding Cinderpelt would give her. She was relieved that Mothwing didn't seem to blame her for bringing Feathertail's message, with all its implications that Mothwing wasn't a true medicine cat. She felt a rush of warmth for her friend and hoped Feathertail was watching them now, seeing how devoted Mothwing was to looking after her clanmates. Mothwing led the way upstream until she came to a spot where a single stepping stone broke the surface of water. Crossing in 2 graceful leaps, she scrambled up the opposite bank and paused to wait for Leafpool. I was afraid you'd think I was talking nonsense, Leafpool confessed in a rush, once she had jumped across the stream. With a surge of hope, she added, Does that mean you're starting to believe in StarClan? Mothwing twitched her whiskers. No, Leafpool, I don't believe the spirits of our warrior ancestors came back to speak with us. Stars are just unseen specks of light in the night sky, not dead cats looking down on us. We can keep our old friends alive with memories, but they're not here. They're nowhere. That's what I believe. I know. Leafpool paused as she picked her way around a patch of thistles. But if you don't believe in StarClan, why take any notice of Feathertail's warning? The RiverClan cat slowed down to look in Leafpool's eyes. Because I believe in you, Leafpool. Leafpool shook her head. That's mouse-brained. How would I know anything unless StarClan told me? Because you're a good medicine cat. You observe everything around you. Somehow you've seen or heard or scented something and you know it means danger, though you aren't certain how you know. And because you believe in StarClan, it all surfaced in a dream about Feathertail. Simple. She turned and padded on. Leafpool didn't think it was that simple at all, but she didn't argue. At least Mothwing had listened to Feathertail's message. When they reached the thunder path, Leafpool glanced around curiously. She had never seen this place before, though Squirrelflight had described it to her. There was a wide space covered by the same hard stuff as the thunder path, with a small wooden 2-leg nest in one corner. A half-bridge made of narrow strips of wood jutted out into the water. Everything was quiet. Mothwing stood at the edge of the thunder path and tasted the air. Yuck! ShadowClan, she meowed, reminding Leafpool this was the border of the 2 territories. And something else. Leafpool stretched her jaws wide. There was a faint, harsh taint to the air that she had not scented in a long time. She felt the fur on her neck bristle. Monsters have been here, she mewed. Mothwing met her anxious gaze. But not recently. There's stale 2-leg scent too, though that reek from ShadowClan nearly covers it. Honestly, Leafpool, I don't think we can call that grave danger. Then what could be the danger? Leafpool wondered. Mothwing twitched the tip of her tail. You can never tell what 2 legs will do next. Maybe it hasn't happened yet. Turning away from the thunder path, she began to pad along the lake shore, pausing once or twice to taste the taste the water. Remember that pool with the dead rabbit? She called over her shoulder. How it gave all the elders a bellyache? I won't make that mistake again. But the water here is fine. When they reached the stream, she checked the water there too, before they followed it back to RiverClan camp. She ended by taking Leafpool back to her den, where both cats drank from the little pool. The water was cool and sweet tasting. There was no scent of anything unusual. The sun was going down. The shadows lay thickly over the pool and stretched into Mothwing's den. As Leafpool had feared, it was too late to go home. Would you like to stay the night? Mothwing offered. You'll never get back to ThunderClan before dark. Thanks, I would. Leafpool knew Cinderpelt would have missed her long ago, and she knew she would have to answer some awkward questions when she got back. But it would be safer to stay here for the night than go home in the early morning. Especially if there might be badgers about. A RiverClan apprentice brought Mothwing a plump fish, enough for both cats to share. As Leafpool settled down to sleep beside Mothwing in her nest of moss and bracken, she murmured, You will remember Feathertail's warning, won't you? You'll keep your eyes open for trouble? What? Mothwing muttered sleepily. Oh, yes, Leafpool. Of course I will. Don't worry. But Leafpool couldn't help worrying. Without having heard the warning from Feathertail herself, it would be easy for Mothwing to forget or decide that it wasn't important, and Leafpool was certain that trouble was coming. Thank you for the lurk, Silver. And I presume death toll means how many cats have perished in the book series so far. Yes! This is only in the second series, though. We didn't count in the first series. But yeah, that's how many. 17 is the confirmed deaths. The plus represents cats that we were told died, but we didn't get a name and we didn't get an exact number. We just know that they're dead. So it represents like some of Wind Clan that died of starvation at the beginning. And then some of the tribe cats that got killed by the mountain lion. Thank you for the lurk, Phil! So yeah, we're at 17 confirmed kills. Chapter 7. Squirrelflight paused beside a clump of bracken, drawing in the scent of the fresh green fronds. Sunlit dew sparkled on every blade of grass, and the whole forest seemed to be waking up after the long sleep of Leaf Bear. Another deep breath brought the scent of a cat, not ThunderClan and not ShadowClan either. Though she was near the border, Squirrelflight froze, glancing from side to side. A bracken frond waved, and she caught a glimpse of a strange tabby cat creeping along with its belly fur brushing the ground. Squirrelflight thought at first that the rogue had wandered into their territory. A heartbeat later, she realized it must be one of the kitty pets she and Brambleclaw had fought with when they first explored the land around the lake. Their two-leg nest was in ShadowClan territory, but this crow food-eating tabby wouldn't give a mousetail for clan boundaries. Dropping into the hunter's crouch, Squirrelflight started to creep up on it. But she hadn't taken more than a couple of paw steps when she heard the rest of her patrol approaching. Thornclaw, Ashfur, and Sootfur. Housebrains, she thought, clumping around like horses. She warned them to keep back with a flick of her tail, but the tabby had already heard them. Squirrelflight saw the brown shape streak out of the middle of the bracken, and she sprang forward in pursuit. Behind her, she heard Ashfur yowl, Hey, Squirrelflight, stop! But she ignored him. She dashed after the intruder, determined to give it a well-clawed ear to teach it not to come back. But the kitty pet had too good of a start. House dung, she spat, when she lost it in a patch of thick undergrowth. She turned back to join the rest of the patrol. To her surprise, they were standing bunched together, staring at her with worried looks on their faces. Squirrelflight, you mousebrain, Sootfur called out. Before she reached the others, Brambleclaw shouldered his way through the undergrowth, with Sandstorm just behind him. Just what do you think you're doing? He demanded. I spotted one of those kitty pets from ShadowClan territory. Squirrelflight was puzzled and angry at how hostile he sounded. What was he accusing of her now? We're supposed to chase trespassers on we're supposed to chase trespassers on a border patrol, right? Right, meowed Brambleclaw. What you're not allowed to do is cross the border into another clan's territory. Suppose a Shadow Clan patrol had seen you. But I didn't. Squirrelflight's voice trailed off. Suddenly, she spotted the dead tree that was one of the boundary markers. She must have chased the kitty pet straight past it. I didn't notice any scent marks, she argued, padding forward until she was on the right side of the border again. The markings are real faint. Ashfur had been over to sniff at the roots of the dead tree. Leave her alone, Brambleclaw. Any cat could have made the same mistake. Sandstorm gave Ashfur a look from narrowed green eyes. Squirrelflight can answer for herself, she mewed. She's not usually lost for words. Squirrelflight blinked gratefully at Ashfur. She didn't need him or any cat to spring to her defense, but it was good of him to support her. I'm sorry. I really didn't notice. The markings are faint, Thornclaw agreed. I don't think ShadowClan have renewed them for days. What's the matter with them? Sandstorm wondered. ShadowClan are usually the first to make sure that no cat crosses their border. Squirrelflight shrugged. If they can't be bothered to set their markers, they can't object if some cat crosses the boundary by mistake. I suppose you're right, Brambleclaw sighed. But for StarClan's sake, be a bit more careful next time. She will be. Ashfur sprang to Squirrelflight's defense again, unaware of the furious look she gave him this time. She was even angrier when she noticed a surprised glance from Sandstorm, as if her mother couldn't believe she was depending on Ashfur for protection. Anyway, Brambleclaw, the gray tomcat went on, it's not your place to tell her what to do. It's any cat's place, Brambleclaw retorted, his neck fur starting to bristle. Do you want trouble with ShadowClan? Ashfur unsheathed his claws. That's not the point. Hang on, Squirrelflight protested. I don't want... That's enough. Sandstorm stalked over and confronted the three quarreling cats. Let's get back to camp before ShadowClan cats do turn up and find us ruffling each other's fur. She stalked off in the direction of camp. Sootfur and Thornclaw followed, but Brambleclaw and Ashfur hesitated, still giving each other an angry stare. Squirrelflight felt thoroughly exasperated with the both of them. You go on ahead, she snapped to Ashfur. Ashfur looked startled. Okay. I'll see you back at camp. With a frustrated lash of his tail, he padded off after the others. You can't blame him for wanting to take care of you. Brambleclaw's word could have been approving, but his tone was critical, as if he were remembering all the times on their journey where Squirrelflight had been frustrated with him for trying to protect her. Hi, Salima! Hi! At least there's one cat I know I can trust with my life, she hissed. Brambleclaw's eyes widened. Only one, Squirrelflight? Yes! She spat back. She felt so far away from him now, it was impossible to remember she had once looked at him with warmth. At least Ashfur doesn't keep going off with a cat from another clan. A cat who can't be trusted. The hurt in Brambleclaw's eyes faded, to be replaced by rage. That's what you want, is it? A loyal warrior to pat after you and smooth all the thorns out of your path? I never used to think you were like that. I believe better of you. Believe what you like. Brambleclaw drew his lips back in the beginnings of a snarl, but before he could speak, the undergrowth behind Squirrelflight rustled. She whirled around to see Ashfur had come back. What do you want now? She growled. Ashfur looked bewildered. I'm sorry, I wondered why you didn't catch up, so I came back to make sure you're okay. Squirrelflight sighed and let the fur lie flat on her neck. Ashfur would have to learn that she could stand up for herself, but at least he was straightforward. He said what he meant, and no cat could doubt his loyalty to his clan. If Brambleclaw was a deep pool shadowed by forest trees, Ashfur was like the lake, glittering in sunlight. Squirrelflight suddenly found herself longing for the sun. I'm fine, she meowed, touching her muzzle to Ashfur's. Let's go. She headed away from the border, with Ashfur at her side. But all the while she was conscious of Brambleclaw's amber gaze upon her, until the ferns closed around her and she was hidden from his sight. Bye-bye! When Squirrelflight returned to camp, the stone hollow was full of activity. Cloudtail and Brightheart were just emerging from the warrior's den. Their daughter, Whitepaw, dashed across the clearing to join them, meowing loudly. The elders had taken their places at the foot of the rock beneath the high ledge. Firestar was making his way down the stony path from his den to the floor of the hollow. "What's happening?" Scoreflight asked as more warriors appeared from their den. "Firestar just called a meeting." Leafpool spoke behind her. Scoreflight thought she looked subdued, as if she was still recovering from the fierce scolding Cinderpelt had given her from staying out all night in RiverClan. "It's time for Birchkit to be made an apprentice." "Aww! Great!" Scoreflight gave a little bounce of delight. For the first time, she noticed Ferncloud at the entrance of the nursery, vigorously grooming Birchkit's pelt while the young cat wriggled with excitement. Dustpelt sat close by, looking ready to burst with pride. "The first new apprentice in our new home. Who's going to mentor him?" "Hi, Jarn." "I have no idea," Leafpool meowed, beginning to cheer up. She glanced around the clearing as if she were trying to guess who the new mentor would be. Scoreflight and Ashfur found places among the other cats grouped in a semicircle around Firestar. She would have liked to mentor Birchkit herself, but she suspected she hadn't been a warrior long enough to be chosen, when so many more experienced cats were without an apprentice. Besides, Sandstorm followed Firestar down the rocks from his den, and she gave Squirrelflight a hard look as she padded past to sit beside Brakenfur. She must have told Firestar what had happened on the ShadowClan border. Sighing, Squirrelflight guessed she would have to start thinking before she acted if she wanted to be trusted with the responsibility of mentoring an apprentice. When all the cats had gathered, Firestar summoned Birchkit with a flick of his tail. The young cat padded forward. Although he was shaking with nerves, he stood before Firestar with head and tail held high. His pelt gleamed in the sunlight and his eyes shone. Squirrelflight felt a rush of admiration for him. His litter mates, Larchkit and Hollykit, had died from starvation when the two legs tore up the old forest. Birchkit had lost his home too, but he had shown great courage for such a young cat. Squirrelflight noticed Brambleclaw, crouched by himself a couple tail lengths away from her. Ambition flared in his amber eyes as he gazed at Birchkit. She could see how desperately he wanted the young cat as his apprentice, and she wondered why he should care so much more than the other warriors. Then claws gripped deep in her belly as the answer came to her. Warriors could not be chosen as deputy unless they had mentored an apprentice. With Graystarp's fate still unknown, it couldn't be long before Firestar had to name another cat in his place. If Brambleclaw were to stand a chance, he had to have an apprentice, and there were no more kits in the clan. Seeing Brambleclaw now, focused on Birchkit as if the young cat were a particularly juicy piece of fresh kill, Squirrelflight couldn't help asking herself what Brambleclaw would be prepared to do to feed such fierce ambition. Could he really become a killer like his father, Tigerstar? Firestar waited for the clan to grow silent. "This is a good day for ThunderClan," he began. "By naming apprentices, we show that ThunderClan will survive and remain strong. Birchkit, from now on, you will be known as Birchpaw." Birchpaw nodded enthusiastically. "Ashfur, you are ready for an apprentice." Firestar continued. "You will be Birchpaw's mentor." Aw, dang. Ashfur's getting everything from Brambleclaw. Taking his girl, taking his potential apprentice. Oh my god. Squirrelflight saw Brambleclaw's eyes blaze in disbelief. His muscles tensed as if he were about to spring to his paws, but he held himself still. Not even the most ambitious cat would challenge a leader's choice of mentor. Squirrelflight turned to look at Ashfur. Pride and happiness shone in his eyes as Birchpaw scampered towards him. "Ashfur," Firestar continued, "you too have known loss and grief and found the strength to deal with them." He was talking about the death of Brindleface, Ashfur's mother. She had been murdered by Tigerstar and left as bait for the dog pack to lure them into the old ThunderClan camp. All that had happened before Squirrelflight was born, but every cat in the clan had heard the story over and over again. "I know you will pass on your strength to Birchpaw," Firestar meowed, "and teach him the skills that will make him a brave warrior of ThunderClan." Eyes brimming with excitement, Birchpaw stretched up, and Ashfur bent his head to touch noses with him. "Birchpaw! Birchpaw!" The clan welcomed the apprentice with his new name. Ferncloud and Dustpelt bounded over to him, Ferncloud purring too loudly to speak, and Dustpelt gave his son a quick lick of congratulations. You never told me Firestar chose you, Squirrelflight exclaimed to Ashfur, too happy for him to feel really indignant. Ashfur's blue eyes glowed as he turned and gave her shoulder a swift flick. I wanted to surprise you, he replied. With the ceremony over, Birchpaw started to look a bit lost, as if he wasn't sure what happened next. Whitepaw darted across and pressed her muzzle against his. Come on, she meowed. I'll show you the apprentice's den. We'll fetch some more moss for your bedding, and I'll ask Bracken for if we can go training together tomorrow. Birchpaw glanced at his mentor for permission to go with her, and when Ashfur nodded, he followed Whitepaw across the clearing. They both disappeared into the brambles where the apprentices slept. I never thought Firestar would choose me, Ashfur murmured, watching him go. I still can't believe it. Squirrelflight pressed her nose into the fur on his shoulder. You deserve it as much as any cat, she meowed. But her gaze slid past him to Brambleclaw. The big tabby Tom had risen to his paws and was gazing at her and Ashfur with envy and frustration in his eyes. A tremor of fear went through Squirrelflight. What would he do now, when his hopes of becoming deputy had been frustrated yet again? Squirrelflight, Sandstorm was calling to her a few tail lengths away. Come here a moment. Squirrelflight padded over to her mother. What is it? That quarrel today, by the Shadow Clan border. Brambleclaw and Ashfur were close to fighting, and that's not good for the clan. Squirrelflight's pelt prickled. It wasn't my fault, she muttered mutinously. Why tell me about it? The tip of Sandstorm's tail twitched back and forth. Come on, Squirrelflight. You know better than that. Any cat can have problems, but you shouldn't let yours get in the way of your duty to the clan. Squirrelflight forced herself to meet her mother's eyes and saw sympathy there in spite of her stern words. Okay, she mewed. I'll do my best. But there are times when they both behave like furballs. Amusement glimmered in Sandstorm's green eyes. That's tomcats for you. She rested her tail on Squirrelflight's shoulder for a moment before heading towards the fresh kill pile. Squirrelflight watched Brambleclaw slipping between the thorn branches into the warrior's den. His head was down and his tail trailed on the ground. The cat Squirrelflight thought she had known would have accepted his disappointment and moved on, given up his hopes of being a deputy, and concentrated on being loyal to ThunderClan. But Brambleclaw wasn't that cat anymore. Fear tingled through Squirrelflight again as she wondered just how far he would go to fulfill his ambition. What is it? With my teeth and ambition. How does that go? With my teeth and ambition bared, be prepared. I need to look up the song. I sang this for my karaoke stream ages ago. With my teeth and ambitions. Full lyrics. Let me see. Yeah, be prepared. We'll be prepared. For what? For the death of the king. Why? Is he sick? No, fool. We're gonna kill him. And Simba, too. Great idea. Who needs a king? No king, la 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 la. Okay, what is it? Oh, yes, our teeth and ambitions are bare. Be prepared. It's our teeth. Yes, teeth and ambitions are bare. That's why it sounded weird. No king, la 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 la. Idiots, there will be a king. But you said, I will be king. Stick with me and you'll never go hungry again. Yay, all right, long live the king, long live the king, long live the king. All right. You know what's a good song? The song that in Lion King 2 that she sings, Kovu's Lullaby, is that it? Hi, Allie Bell! Everyone, I'm good. I hope everyone is good as well. I got sidetracked at singing Be Prepared. Is it Kovu's Lullaby or Kovu's Lullaby? My lullaby. Hush, my little one, you must be exhausted. Sleep, my little Kovu, let your dreams take wing. One day when you're big and strong, you will be king. I actually don't remember the melody of this. How does it go? Melody of angry growls, a counterpoint of painful howls, symphony of death, oh my! That's my lullaby. Oh no, later I need to know which nose you want for the Animal Crossing no. There's an Animal Crossing no? I want the round one. The one that's like a circle. The button nose. How are your... Oh, did you? I can't even remember. How's your blender work going, by the way, Cordy? Do you have any work in progresses I can see? They sound so cool. Have you made yourself yet? What is and ambitions, rabbit? Be prepared. Okay. We have to start Chapter 8. I've been meaning to make myself, but not yet. Okay. I'm waiting patiently. I wanna see the goods. Okay, I'm gonna take a bite out of my marzipan bar that my sister got me. Oh, nice! That's so exciting. Okay. I'm excited. I'll wait with bated breath. Marzipan is good because it's like sweet, and then it's also chock full of protein because it's made out of almonds. Okay. Sip of water. And Chapter 8. Leafpool and Cinderpelt emerged from the trees beside the lake to see the small figure of a single cat making its way along the shore into ShadowClan territory. There's Little Cloud, Cinderpelt meowed, pointing with her tail. Leafpool let out a faint sigh of relief. The sun had gone down over the lake, and the half moon already shone pale in the darkened sky. It was time for the medicine cats to meet at the moon pool. Leafpool had been afraid that if she and Cinderpelt had made the journey alone, the medicine cat would start questioning her about her visit to RiverClan 2 days earlier. When Leafpool had returned, Cinderpelt was furious. She wanted to know why Leafpool had stayed away for a whole night. You do realize that Firestar ordered a patrol to search for you, she hissed. Do you think cats have nothing better to do? Honestly, Leafpool, I thought you were more responsible. I'm sorry. Leafpool scuffled with her forepaws in the dry leaves outside Cinderpelt's den. I wanted to take some catmen to Mothwing. She gave me the horsetail in exchange. She gestured to the pile of fleshy stalks she had picked on her way back across the marshy ground. Cinderpelt made an exasperated noise. Leafpool, the clans have started living independently again. I know Mothwing is your friend, but that doesn't mean you can swap herbs whenever you feel like it. Next time, ask me for permission first. Yes, Cinderpelt. Leafpool was pretty sure the permission wouldn't be forthcoming. She knew Cinderpelt would be even angrier if she knew the real reason for Leafpool's visit. But Mothwing deserved to be a medicine cat because of her skill at healing, and if StarClan spoke to her through Leafpool, it didn't matter if Mothwing couldn't believe in them. Now, as they waited for Little Cloud beside the lake, Cinderpelt's blue gaze was fixed on her again. Are you sure you only went to RiverClan that day? There's nothing else I should know about? Stung, Leafpool looked up. No, Cinderpelt, I'm quite sure. Did the medicine cat suspect her of sneaking off to meet Crowfeather? Leafpool felt even more indignant because she had told Cinderpelt the truth about going to RiverClan. She hadn't seen a single hair on Crowfeather's pelt. Leafpool told herself that her mentor couldn't know for sure about the feelings she tried so hard to hide. But it would be hard to defend herself if Cinderpelt made a more direct accusation. To her relief, the ShadowClan medicine cat was close enough to hear them now. Cinderpelt wouldn't say anything about Crowfeather in front of him. The little cloud waded through the stream that marked the border, shook water drops off each paw in turn, then bounded across the shore until he reached the other two medicine cats. May StarClan light your paths, he greeted them. Is all well in your clans? Everything's fine, Cinderpelt replied. How about ShadowClan? Oh yes, fine, fine. Leafpool thought that the small Tabby Tom looked distracted. If Cinderpelt noticed, she didn't say anything, and the three cats headed towards the stream on the WindClan border that they would follow to the moon pool. Mothwing didn't come with you? Oh, sorry. Mothwing didn't come with you? Leafpool meowed. No. Little Cloud twitched his whiskers. I expect she's coming through WindClan. There was no sign of the RiverClan cat traveling along the shore from the other direction. Leafpool's paws felt heavy with secrets as she followed the others upstream through the woodland. She wondered if Mothwing had finally decided that she couldn't be bothered coming to share tongues with cats she didn't believe in. Or maybe the trouble for the... Hi, Ollie! Thank you! Your soft pretty voice is very calm. This is the best thing about you. You're positive. Marry me. No offense, friend, okay? Thank you! You're so sweet, Ollie. Today's a reading stream, so I can't really chat much while I'm reading, but between chapters I can. Thank you again for the compliment. Let me see, where was I? She wondered if Mothwing had finally decided that she couldn't be bothered coming to share tongues with cats she didn't believe in. Or maybe the trouble foretold by Feathertail had already come, and the RiverClan medicine cat couldn't leave her clan. Her anxiety deepened when they met Barkface, the WindClan medicine cat. At the point where the trees gave way to open moorland, he hadn't seen Mothwing either. She can still catch up, Cinderpelt mewed, as she limped further up the hill. As they skirted WindClan territory, Leafpool scanned the moorland slopes. She told herself it was Mothwing's golden pelt she wanted to see, not the lean, gray shape of Crowfeather. How are things in WindClan? Cinderpelt asked Barkface. One Star seems confident at the gathering. One star will make a strong leader. Barkface's tone was neutral. If there were still difficulties within WindClan, he obviously wasn't going to talk about them, not even to other medicine cats. You know what I found up on the moors? Barkface went on, his voice growing more friendly as he changed the subject. Of course I don't, Mousebrain. Cinderpelt flicked his ear gently with the tip of her tail, but I can see you're dying to tell me. A goldenrod! Huge tall clumps of it. The older cat let out a satisfied purr. Very good for healing wounds. That's excellent news, Barkface, Cinderpelt meowed. Let's hope you don't need to use it too soon. The WindClan medicine cat agreed with a rumble deep in his throat. But it's good to know where it is. Leafpool suddenly felt a chill. Even counting the fox and the badger, so far they hadn't encountered many enemies in their new home. They wouldn't need a supply of goldenrod unless the cats started fighting each other. We all journeyed together not long ago, she thought despairingly. Why do we have to split into 4 again? Red thing. Hi, good morning! Night had fallen by the time the 4 medicine cats reached the moon pool. Ahead of them rose a cliff of black rock, hung with ferns and shaggy moss. A stream cascaded from a cleft about halfway up. Stars glittered on its surface and on the bubbling water of the pool. Leafpool felt calmer as she pushed through the barrier of bushes that guarded the hollow. Whatever the future would bring, they were all in the paws of StarClan now. Barkface stood back to let Cinderpelt go down the path that led around the sides of the hollow. Suddenly, Leafpool heard a gasping breaths behind her, and the bushes rustled as another cat thrust its way through. Mothwing! She exclaimed, feeling weak with relief. I thought you weren't coming. Is everything okay? I'm fine, Mothwing panted. Busy, that's all. Sorry I'm late. Leafpool caught Cinderpelt giving Mothwing a look from narrowed eyes, as if she wondered what could be so important that it meant being late for a meeting at the moon pool. Sorry to interrupt. Please continue reading. Don't mind me. I can chat between chapters a lot more. Let's see. You're not late, Little Cloud mewed, with a friendly wave of his tail. We haven't started yet. As Cinderpelt led the way down to the pool, Leafpool hung back to whisper to Mothwing, I thought maybe Feathertail's prophecy had come true. No, I've checked the territory over and over. There's nothing. Mothwing's brilliant blue eyes gazed seriously into Leafpool's amber ones, but I'll keep looking. I won't forget. She hurried after the other medicine cats. Leafpool went down last, feeling her paws slip into the paw prints fixed into the hard earth of the path. No cat had been there counting for moons beyond counting until Spotted Leaf had led Leafpool to the place. But the dimpled paw marks proved that their ancestors had been there many times. Leafpool's paws tingled at the thought of being in a long line of medicine cats, all serving their clans with the guidance of StarClan. At the bottom of the hollow, all 5 cats crouched down by the edge of the pool and stretched their necks to lap the dancing, star-filled water. Leafpool felt its icy touch on her tongue, tasting of stars and night, and closed her eyes to receive the dream StarClan wanted to send her. She expected to see Feathertail, and perhaps receive more explanation about her warning to Mothwing, but the beautiful gray she-cat did not appear. Instead, Leafpool found herself walking through a windy darkness. There were outlined shapes of cats whisked into the corner of her eyes and disappeared before she could confront them. She heard a distant wailing, the mingled lament of many cats rising into the night. With no words she could distinguish, or voices she could recognize. Who are you? She called out loud. Where are you? What do you want? Only the eerie, distant caterwauling came back. Fear pulsed through her, throbbing to the rhythm of her heartbeat. It tugged at her paws, almost making her flee in blind terror through the shadows. But she made herself pace slowly forward, looking from side to side in an effort to find out where she was and what message StarClan had for her. At last she saw a spot of pure white light, far ahead of her, like a star hovering on the horizon. She raced forward. The light swelled until it filled her vision, then she burst through it and found herself blinking awake on the edge of the moon pool. Shivers ran through her as she felt as if every hair on her pelt was on end. When she tried to stand up, she felt so shaky that she flopped down again and lay still, taking deep breaths to calm herself. Looking around, she saw Cinderpelt, Barkface, and Little Cloud still deep in their dreams. Mothwing, however, had curled up on a flattened stone and was obviously enjoying a peaceful sleep. Mothwing! Leafpool whispered, reaching over to prod her with one paw. Mothwing, wake up! The RiverClan medicine cat's eyes opened, blinking in confusion at Leafpool. Then she got up and extended her front paw in a graceful stretch. Honestly, Leafpool, she complained, did you have to wake me? That was the best sleep I've had in moons. Sorry, but you wouldn't want the others to catch you, would you? Mothwing glanced at the other 3 medicine cats, who were all beginning to stir. No, I wouldn't. Sorry, Leafpool. Leafpool sat up and began to groom her ruffled fur. She wanted to know if the others had received the same confusing dream, and to find out if they could make sense of it. She wasn't surprised when Cinderpelt, Barkface, and Little Cloud sat up looking solemn and a little puzzled. That was much more confusing dream than usual, Little Cloud began, giving his chest for a lick. Maybe we should discuss it. Good, Leafpool thought. Perhaps one of them understands what it meant, because I certainly don't. Claws, Cinderpelt put in. I saw huge white claws, ready to tear fur and spill blood. Barkface nodded. And gaping jaws. But were they cats? I couldn't be sure. And then that voice, Little Cloud shuddered. So loud, foretelling death and danger? What does it all mean? Leafpool froze. That wasn't her dream. Why had StarClan not shown her these images to her as well? Was it because she was keeping Mothwing's secret? But Feathertail came to me, she thought confusedly. If StarClan were angry about Mothwing, she would have told me. Maybe this had nothing to do with Mothwing. Perhaps StarClan had noticed Leafpool's feelings for Crowfeather. Was she becoming less of a medicine cat because she loved the Grey Warrior? But that's not fair, she wailed inwardly. I haven't even spoken to him since that night by the hollow. What do you think, Leafpool? Cinderpelt broke in on her thoughts. Leafpool started. I'm not sure. Does Mothwing feel like this when she's asked about StarClan? She wondered, always needing to pretend? Mothwing stretched her jaws in an enormous yawn. StarClan must be warning us about something, she mewed. Leafpool glanced at her in surprise, but it wasn't difficult to guess that from where the others. But it wasn't difficult to guess that from what the others had said. Did Mothwing assume it was the same as Feathertail's warning? But that had been for RiverClan alone, whereas this prophecy had come to the three other cats. Cinderpelt bowed her head. We must think about this, she meowed. If there's danger ahead, StarClan will show us more. Let's talk about this again when we meet next time, Little Cloud suggested. Maybe by then everything will be clearer. Good idea, Barkface grunted. StarClan certainly weren't giving much away tonight. Don't forget our warrior ancestors have to settle into a new home as much as we do, Cinderpelt added. Maybe that makes it harder for them to reach us. That was possible, Leafpool thought hopefully, but it didn't explain why she had dreamed something totally different from the others. The medicine cats followed the spiral path out of the bowl and pushed through the barrier of bushes. As they made their way down the hill, Cinderpelt, Little Cloud, and Barkface drew ahead, murmuring anxiously as if it was too hard to keep their agreement of waiting until the next time to discuss the dream. Mothwing and Leafpool padded side by side behind them. Did you tell Leopard Star about my dream? Leafpool asked her friend quietly so the other cats wouldn't hear. Mothwing gave her a startled glance. Why? No. How could I? I couldn't admit that StarClan had sent me a message through another clan's medicine cat. But you could have said it was your own dream. Leafpool touched the golden tabby's shoulder with her tail tip. That's a nice quote. The quote thingy is mostly for things that I say that are silly goofy. But thank you. Also, thank you for the follow. I wouldn't mind. Leopard Star ought to know, so she can tell the warriors to keep a lookout for anything suspicious. Yeah, there, Snicklefritz said it. Mothwing's tail lashed once. I can't, Leafpool. I've never told Leopard Star about a dream before this, and I probably never will again. It wasn't my dream. I just don't have prophetic dreams from StarClan. Her voice quieter and more troubled, she went on. I have to find my own way of being a medicine cat, without StarClan. Trust me, Leafpool. I want nothing more than to care for my clan, but it has to be on my own terms. It's good. Leafpool eyed her friend doubtfully. Silverpelt blazed across the sky above them. How could Mothwing see the shining spirits of their ancestors and not believe in them? She knew Mothwing worked hard at her healing skills and truly cared for her clan, but without that belief she could not lap from the spring of strength and wisdom that came from StarClan. Her own faith was so important to Leafpool that she couldn't imagine being a medicine cat without it. But if you don't believe, she began, then stopped and struggled to figure out what she really wanted to say. Mothwing, do you believe I had a dream where Feathertail warned me about trouble in your clan? Mothwing gazed at Leafpool with her eyes that gleamed pale in the moonlight. Yes, I believe you had a dream. That's no answer, Leafpool thought frustratedly. But then she realized that it might be the best answer her friend could give. And what right did she have to criticize when she seemed to be losing her own connection to StarClan? It'll be okay, Mothwing reassured her. I'm checking all the water sources regularly, and when I go out gathering herbs, I keep my eyes open for anything to do with two legs. A flick of her tail told Leafpool she didn't want to talk about the warnings anymore. What about ThunderClan? Is everything okay with you? Fine, thanks. We just made a new apprentice, Birchpaw. You'll be seeing him at the gathering before long, I expect. That's great. Who's his mentor? Ashfur. Leafpool broke off as a hiss came out of the darkness. Her pelt prickled with the sense of danger. What was that? Mothwing whispered. They had reached the border of WindClan territory. The moorland stretched away from them on all sides, dotted with outcrops of rock and stunted thorn trees. Deep shadows lay in the hollows. The hiss came again. Leafpool! Leafpool relaxed as a lean gray shape slid out from behind the nearest rock, and a familiar scent flooded over her. Crowfeather! She exclaimed. You scared me out of my fur! Sorry. The WindClan warrior muttered. He gave Mothwing a searching stare. I want a word with Leafpool, if you don't mind. Mothwing looked surprised and hesitated if she were to object, but then she nodded and let out a faint, knowing meow. Leafpool felt the skin under her fur flush hot with embarrassment. Sure, Mothwing murmured. See you soon, Leafpool. She turned and vanished downhill into the darkness. Leafpool almost called her back. She wasn't sure she wanted to be alone with Crowfeather. This isn't right, she began, taking a pace back. I knew you'd come this way, Crowfeather meowed urgently. I followed Barkface's scent trail, and then I waited for you. Leafpool, we have to talk. I can't forget that night outside your camp. I know, but... Crowfeather interrupted her. At first I thought you felt the same way as I do, but then you avoided me at the gathering, and I don't understand why. His claws raked through the tough moorland turf. I can't get you out of my head, Leafpool. The other day I missed a rabbit that practically leaped in my paws. I keep making mistakes. I'm doing the same thing, Leafpool exclaimed. I tried to give Firestar nettle seeds instead of poppy, and I mixed up ointment of yarrow and mouse bile. That was so mouse-brained. The WindClan warrior twitched his whiskers. Ashfoot said I was as daft as a new apprentice. Cinderpelt got cross with me, too. Leafpool, I know you feel the same as I do, Crowfeather meowed. Somehow we have to be together. His scent, his nearness was doing something to Leafpool's insides. She felt as if she were melting like ice at New Leaf. But I'm a medicine cat, she protested, struggling against the urge to press her muzzle into his fur. And I'm from another clan. There isn't any future for us, Crowfeather. Amber eyes burnt into hers. Leafpool, do you want to be with me as much as I want to be with you? Leafpool knew what her answer should have been, but she couldn't lie to him. Yes, I do. Then there must be a way. Will you meet me again? Somewhere we can talk properly? Leafpool dug her claws into the ground. Surely this couldn't be wrong, this overwhelming need to be with Crowfeather. StarClan couldn't be so cruel to deny her this. Yes, I will, she whispered. Where? I'll think of something. I'll get a message to you. Suddenly, Leafpool heard Cinderpelt's voice calling from further down the hill. Leafpool, are you there? Come in, Cinderpelt. More softly, she added to Crowfeather. I must go. Crowfeather's tongue rasped across her ear. I'll let you know where we can meet. It won't be long. Leafpool gazed at him until she knew her eyes would see nothing but his face all the way back to the ThunderClan camp. Then she spun around and pelted down the hillside as if a whole pack of foxes were behind her. I wonder if, I feel like Crowfeather has a thing against cats he's not able to be with. You know, first it was Feathertail, and now it's Leafpool. He just wants to, he just wants a little excitement that isn't in his clan. The spice, the dramatics, the dramas. Something was outside my door, but I wasn't sure what it was. I think it's a toy. Oh, I think the cats are playing. Okay, chapter 9. We're 50 pages away from 100 pages for today, which is, I guess, yeah, that makes sense. Let's see if I can, read a little faster, though. Chapter 9. Hey, Squirrelflight! Squirrelflight looked up. Oh, wait, who was it? It was Cloudtail. Hey, Squirrelflight! Squirrelflight looked up from the mouse she was eating beside the fresh kill pile. Her fur was ruffled uncomfortably by the cold wind. The weather had been gray and blustery for several days, and the promise of early new leaf had vanished. Want to go for a hunt? Cloudtail asked, strolling up to her. Breckenfur and Spiderleg are coming. Great! Squirrelflight replied. Breckenfur was talking to Ashfur and the two apprentices near the thorn tunnel. He seemed to be giving them an order, waving his tail for emphasis. Then Ashfur led the two apprentices towards the elder's den, while Breckenfur strode over to join Squirrelflight and Cloudtail. Ashfur's gonna supervise Whitepaw and Birchpaw while they do their duties for the elders, he explained. They keep asking to work together. Squirrelflight could understand why. Whitepaw had been the only apprentice since Spiderleg had been made a warrior more than a moon ago, while Birchpaw had been alone in the nursery since the clan came into their new territory. Squirrelflight remembered how much fun it had been to train with the others when she was an apprentice. Her best friend had been Truepaw, who had died on their journey to the lake. She would have liked to train with Leafpool, but right from a tiny kit, her sister had seemed to know that her path led to the medicine cat's den. Swallowing the last gulp of mouse, Squirrelflight sprang to her paws. "Where are we going?" she asked, licking a paw and swiping it over her jaws to remove the traces of fresh kill. "I thought we might try the stream close to the lake," Breakenfur replied, "where there's good cover, plenty of places for prey to hide." "Where's Spiderleg?" he added. Before Cloudtail could answer, the long-legged black warrior pushed his way out through the branches of the warrior's den and bounded across the clearing. "What are we waiting for?" he demanded. "You!" Cloudtail flicked his tail over Spiderleg's ear. "Let's go!" Wind thrashed the branches above their head and almost flattened the ferns as the four cats headed towards the stream. Squirrelflight shivered as it tugged her fur the wrong way, but there was something exhilarating about it too, as if it would make her senses keener and her paws run faster. Gradually, she quickened her pace until she was racing through the woods with their tails streaming out behind her. "Wait for us!" Breakenfur called. Cloudtail was running alongside her, his white pelt almost brushing hers, and Breakenfur caught up on her other side. With a yowl of triumph, Spiderleg flashed past all three of them, his long legs eating up the ground. "Don't go too far ahead," Cloudtail panted. "You'll scare away all the play." Squirrelflight slowed down. The run had stretched her muscles and made her feel she had enough energy for anything. They caught up with Spiderleg near the top of the bank that led down to the stream. He twitched his tail, warning them to keep silent, and Squirrelflight saw that he had spotted a starling. He dropped into the hunter's crouch, wagging his hindquarters as he crept up on the bird. He was ready to pounce when suddenly the wind changed. Parting the grasses that had concealed Spiderleg from his prey, the starling let out a loud alarm call. Spiderleg leapt, but the bird fluttered away from his outstretched forepaw and vanished into a tree. Spiderleg turned back to his clanmates with his tail drooping. "Sorry." "Nothing to be sorry for," Breakenfur meowed to the younger warrior. "It was just bad luck, the wind changing like that." Squirrelflight stood on the bank, listening to the clatter of the branches and the streaming bubbling below. Downstream, between the trees, she could see the surface of the lake, gray and rigid as the wind swept over it. For a moment, she thought she heard another sound, the faint cry of a cat in distress. But it wasn't repeated, and Squirrelflight thought she must have imagined it. Cloudtail came to stand beside her. "Can you scent anything?" Squirrelflight shook her head. The white warrior opened his jaws and tasted the air. Squirrelflight saw his ears prick up, and he exclaimed, "Intruders!" "WindClan?" Breakenford joined them and peered down at the stream that formed on the border. Even now, at the end of Leafbear, the slope was covered with grass and fern, where invaders could hide as easily as prey. "No, not WindClan." Cloudtail drew in the scent again. "I don't know who it is." Squirrelflight tasted the air. Cloudtail was right. There was definitely the scent of a cat. Maybe more than one, but it wasn't from any of the clans. It was a pungent smell, with a hint of grass, and it was coming from close by. "Rogues, do you think?" Spiderleg began to creep down the bank. "Stay where you are!" Cloudtail snapped. "Would you go sticking your nose into a bee's nest? We need to know what we're dealing with." He took a pace forward and called out, "Who's there? Show yourself!" Squirrelflight scanned the ground that led down to the stream, muscles tensed for the first sign of danger. "If they're looking for trouble, they can have it," she muttered. "I know you're there!" Cloudtail called again. "Come out!" A tussock of long grass at the edge of the stream parted. To Squirrelflight's astonishment, a she-cat with long, cream-colored fur padded out. "It's Daisy from the horse place!" Squirrelflight exclaimed. "What are you doing here? Are you lost?" Privately, she couldn't believe that even a kitty pet could get lost here, when all she had to do was follow the lakeshore back to her home. The she-cat cowered in the shelter of a bush and pressed herself to the ground as she looked up at the warriors. "Please don't hurt me," she mewed. "I'll chase her out," Spiderleg offered, crouching down as if preparing to pounce on prey. Cloudtail swished his tail. "Stand up, Mousebrain," he snapped. "Let's find out what's going on first." He padded down the bank until he stood face to face with Daisy. Squirrelflight followed him. The kitty pet was a pitiful sight. Her long furred pelt was muddy and tangled with burrs, and her blue eyes were blank with exhaustion. "What's wrong? Has something happened at the horse place?" Daisy blinked up at her, but before she could reply, a mewling cry rose from the other side of the bush. "Kits!" exclaimed Cloudtail. He pushed past Daisy and shouldered his way into the long grass. Daisy followed him, mewing desperately. "Don't hurt my kits!" Dodging around the tussock of grass, Squirrelflight found 3 tiny kits huddled together, their tiny pink mouths stretched wide in a wail of hunger and confusion. One was cream-furred like Daisy, the others gray and white like the tomcat Smokey from the horse place. Daisy circled her kits with her body, drawing them close to her with her tail. "Please help us," she begged. "Don't worry, we won't hurt any of you," Breakenfur reassured her. "What are you doing here?" Squirrelflight asked. "Surely your kits are too young to have traveled all this way." Daisy bent down and licked the cream-colored kit. "When Floss had her kits, the no-furs took them away." No-furs must mean 2 legs, Squirrelflight thought. Why would they do that? Daisy shook her head. No cat knows. They were so young, their eyes weren't even open. Cloudtail let out a hiss of anger. "Foxdung! If I'd been there, I'd have claws their stupid faces." "What good would that do?" Daisy asked, her eyes brimming with sorrow. "The kits would still be gone. Floss will never see them again. So when I had mine," she went on, lifting her head defiantly, "I decided to leave before the no-furs found them. I saw lots of cats going past our fence in this direction, and I thought some of you would be friendly." She turned her huge, trusting blue eyes on Cloudtail. The warrior bent his head to sniff at the 3 little scraps of fur. The kits shrank away, shivering, as their mews grew shrill with panic. "You will help us, won't you?" Daisy went on. "Back there," she pointed with her tail towards WindClan territory. "Some cats drove us off." "That would be WindClan," Breakenfur meowed. "Don't worry, you're in ThunderClan territory now." Daisy nodded. "That must be why they left us alone once we crossed the stream. But I don't think my kits can go any further, and I won't take them back. The no-furs will steal them if I do." "We'll help you," Cloudtail promised. "You can bring your kits back to our camp." Daisy blinked warmly at him. "Oh, thank you. You're so kind." Breakenfur shot Cloudtail a look of surprise. "4 kitty pets?" he murmured. "What's Firestar going to think about that?" "Firestar will understand," Cloudtail replied. "He was a kitty pet once, and so was I. Do you have a problem with that, Breakenfur?" Breakenfur twitched his ears. "Of course not. But I wonder if this is the right time to take in more cats, when we haven't finished exploring our territory." "Well, it's now or never for these kits," Squirrelflight pointed out. "We're not going to send them along the lake into ShadowClan. Come on!" "Okay, let's get going," Cloudtail meowed. "Spiderleg!" He called the younger warrior who had remained on watch at the top of the bank. "We need some help down here. You 3 can each carry a kit," he explained, "and I'll help Daisy." Squirrelflight picked up one of the gray and white kits by the scruff. It let out a wail of terror and started wiggling. "Shut up, I'm helping you," she muttered through a mouthful of fur. Breakenfur and Spiderleg each took one of the other kits, and Cloudtail let Daisy lean on his shoulder as they struggled up the bank and made their way slowly back to camp. When Squirrelflight pushed her way through the thorn tunnel, the clearing was deserted. But as she headed towards the nursery, Birchpaw bounded up to her, carrying a ball of dirty moss from the elder's den. "What you got there?" he asked, dropping the moss and peering curiously at the tiny bundle dangling from her mouth. "Oh, wow! Whitepaw, come and look at this!" The older apprentice followed him out of the elder's den with more moss. "Kits!" she exclaimed. "Where did you get them?" Squirrelflight couldn't explain with a mouthful of kit, so she padded on to the nursery, while the excited apprentices called the rest of the clan to come look. Ferncloud appeared from the warrior's den and stretched her eyes wide when she saw what Squirrelflight and the others were carrying. "Poor little scraps," she gasped. "Bring them into the nursery. Whitepaw, go and fetch Cinderpelt, and Birchpaw, let Firestar know. Are you their mother?" She meowed to Daisy, who had stumbled up with Cloudtail pressed close to her flank. "Don't worry, we'll look after you." Ferncloud ducked into the nursery after Squirrelflight had begun pulling moss and bracken together to make a warm, thick nest. Squirrelflight gently set her kit down in the middle of the nest. It had stopped wiggling long ago and lay very still, scarcely breathing. Breakenfur and Spiderleg sat down the kits they carried, and Daisy lay down beside them, nudging them anxiously. White Paw. Oh, sorry. White Paw says there are kits in here. Can I see? Sorreltail stuck her head into the nursery. When she saw Daisy and her litter, she pushed her way through the branches to crouch beside the nest. Oh, they're beautiful, she purred. Here, let me help you. She began licking the nearest kit, rubbing its fur the wrong way to warm it up. Squirrelflight was surprised to see how interested Sorreltail was in the kits, until she noticed how plump the tortoiseshell was looking, and how her scent had changed. She must be expecting Breakenfur's kits, she thought. That's great! ThunderClan needs new kits. With Daisy, Sorreltail, and Ferncloud all busy licking, the kits soon started to stir, letting out faint whimpering cries. But Daisy didn't look up until all three revived enough to nuzzle into her belly and start suckling. You saved their lives, she murmured. I thought they were all going to die. The nursery entrance rustled again as Cinderpelt padded in, followed by Leafpool, with a mouthful of herbs. Squirrelflight slid across to her sister's side and whispered, Do you think Sorreltail is expecting kits? Leafpool placed the herbs close to where Daisy was lying. Of course she's expecting, she snapped. Any cat can see it. Where have you been for the last half a moon? Squirrelflight twitched her ears. Leafpool wasn't usually so short-tempered. She felt strong emotion coming off her sister's fur in waves, but Squirrelflight couldn't make out what it was. Cinderpelt edged past Spiderleg to reach Daisy and the kits. What is this, a gathering? Any cat who hasn't something to do here, out! Give us all room to breathe. With a last glance at the new arrivals, Squirrelflight left, along with Spiderleg and Breakenfur. As they emerged into the clearing, Squirrelflight heard Cinderpelt meow, Daisy, I've brought you some herbs to strengthen you and the kits. Don't worry, you're all going to be fine. In the clearing, the apprentices were chattering excitedly, the soiled moss abandoned on the ground. Just outside the nursery, Cloudtail was reporting to Firestar, while several other cats crowded around to listen. Squirrelflight spotted Brambleclaw among them. The Tabby Tom looked disapproving, but then Brambleclaw always looked disapproving these days. He wasn't the only cat who seemed troubled by Daisy's arrival. How long are you going to let them stay? Dustpelt asked the clan leader. Firestar twitched the tip of his tail. That depends a lot on things. How long do they want to stay? I don't think Daisy ever wants to go back to the horse place, Cloudtail meowed. The Two Legs took Floss's kits away, so when her own kits were born, she decided to leave in order to keep them safe. That's a good reason, Firestar commented. Does that mean you'll let them join the clan? Permanently? Brambleclaw's tone was clearly challenging. 4 kitty pets? Squirrelflight felt a growl arising from the back of her throat. Had Brambleclaw forgotten that Firestar had been a kitty pet, and she shared his kitty pet blood? You only have to look at Daisy to tell she probably never killed a mouse in her life, Brambleclaw went on, before Squirrelflight could challenge him. She'll need a lot of help to live out here. True, Firestar admitted, but ThunderClan needs more young cats. We only have 2 apprentices, and although Sorreltail's kits will be very welcome, they won't begin their warrior training for moons. Breakenfur and Sorreltail, who had emerged from the nursery to stand beside her mate, blinked proudly at each other. Aww. But these are kitty pets, Brambleclaw objected. How are they going to learn... What did you say? Cloudtail whirled around to face Brambleclaw. His blue eyes slitted with anger. Have you forgotten that your clan leader was a kitty pet? That I was a kitty pet? I'll show you that kitty pets can claw your ears off any time. Brambleclaw took a step back, his eyes flaring. The rest of the cats looked shocked too, including Cloudtail's mate, Brightheart. Squirrelflight hadn't realized the White Warrior was still so sensitive about his kitty pet origins. They were never mentioned by his clanmates, and he had arrived in ThunderClan as a tiny kit, long before Squirrelflight was born. If Cloudtail doesn't claw you, I will, she hissed, padding forward to stand beside the White Warrior and glaring furiously at Brambleclaw. That's enough, Firestar thrust between the bristling antagonists. Sheath your claws. There'll be no fighting here. Thank you for standing up for us. The quiet voice came from behind her. Squirrelflight turned to see that Daisy had appeared at the entrance to the nursery. I can't help hearing what you were saying. I didn't intend to join anyone when I left home. I only wanted to save my kits from whatever happened to Floss's litter. If there's a problem having us here, we'll leave as soon as my kits are strong enough to travel. It's not a problem, Cloudtail assured her instantly. You can stay as long as you want. Firestar added, padding across to stand in front of Daisy. But if you decide to leave, you need to think very carefully about where you'll go. The life of a loner is tough. Are you used to catching your own food? I bet you can, Squirrelflight put in before Daisy could answer. Barley and Ravenpuck catch mice in their barn, so why shouldn't Daisy and the others? Daisy shook her head, looking a bit embarrassed. No, she'd be too fat and lazy to run fast enough. Rude! Sitfur interrupted, loud enough to be heard. Squirrelflight was glad that when Mousefur hissed at him and gave him a clout around the ear with the sheath paw. She would have done the same if she'd been close enough. The no-furs fed us, Daisy explained, blinking anxiously. We did catch mice sometimes in the barn, but there aren't very many mice there. And anyway, I expect it's harder out here. You're right, it is, Firestar meowed. But we'll show you how, and if you decide to stay, and we'll train your kits in our ways. You don't have to decide right now, Cloudtail put in. Why don't you go back to your kits now? You need rest. And we won't make any decisions without talking to you, Firestar added. He turned to the apprentices, who were hovering at the edge of the group with their eyes like full moons. Birchpaw, fetch Daisy a piece of fresh kill from the pile, please. The young apprentice bounded off. Come on, Daisy, Cloudtail meowed. Everything will seem better when you're not hungry and tired. Squirrelflight saw Brightheart looking a little disconcerted as her mate touched his nose into Daisy's flank. The ginger and white she-cat watched them walk back to the nursery, then murmured to Whitepaw, Your father's doing exactly the right thing. Daisy's exhausted, and she must be scared out of her wits. Brightheart hurried forward to catch up with Cloudtail and Daisy. Do you need any help with the kits? She offered. Oh. Daisy glanced around and let out a squeak of alarm. What happened to your face? Squirrelflight was so used to seeing the injuries Brightheart had received from the dog pack that she didn't notice them anymore, but she could understand how Daisy, confronted by the bald pink scars and empty eye socket for the first time, might be frightened. She doesn't have to show it like that, though, Squirrelflight thought crossly. Poor Brightheart. I was attacked by dogs. Brightheart lowered her head and turned the injured side of her face away from Daisy. She stepped back to let Cloudtail and Daisy go to the nursery alone. Then she headed back across the clearing to the warrior's den. Aw, Brightheart! Wanna hunt? Squirrelflight jumped at the sound of Ashfur's voice behind her. It doesn't sound as if your patrol had much of a chance to bring back fresh kill. No, we didn't, Squirrelflight admitted. Let's go now. We'll need plenty of prey from now on, Ashfur remarked as they headed to the thorn tunnel. 4 more mouths to feed. Squirrelflight was pleased by the warmth in his tone. He was much more welcoming to the new arrivals than Brambleclaw had been, with his scathing comments about kitty pets. I'm half kitty pet myself, she thought. Do you think I should be worried about... Do you think I shouldn't be a warrior either, Brambleclaw? Ducking her head to follow Ashfur through the brambles, Squirrelflight pushed thoughts of Brambleclaw out of her mind. It didn't make any difference where Daisy came from. ThunderClan was desperately short of young cats, after so many had died during the famine and the journey to the lake. Daisy's arrival could be exactly what they needed. I wonder how long cats are pregnant for. How long are cats pregnant? 65 days. How many days is 65 days? So like 2 months? That's good then. Then by the time Sorreltail has her kits, the Daisy's kits will be like walking and talking and prancing about. Which means like good, even kind of like distribution of apprentices. Chapter 10. Leafpool dropped the herbs she was carrying and looked down at the cream-furred she-cat. Cinderbelt says you need to eat these. Daisy blinked up at her from sleepy blue eyes, lifting her head from where she lay among the thick moss in the nursery. In the 2 days since they came to camp, she and her kits had almost recovered from their exhausting journey. Daisy had groomed her fur back into soft silkiness, with her 3 kits while her 3 kits were curled up together in a purring heap. "You're all so kind," Daisy murmured. She chewed up the herbs obediently, wrinkling her nose against the pungent scent. Careful not to disturb them, Leafpool bent to check the 3 kits. "They're beautiful," she mewed. "Have you given them names yet?" "Yes. The one with the cream fur like mine is Berry. The bigger gray one is Mouse, and the smallest one is Hazel." Daisy rested her tail softly on each kit as she named it. "Those will work very well as clan names," Leafpool told her. "Here, they'll be Berry Kit, Mouse Kit, and Hazel Kit. I'll let Firestar know." She thought Daisy looked a bit doubtful, as if she wasn't sure she wanted her kits to be part of the clan. But before she could say any more, Ferncloud crept in through the entrance with a mouse in her jaws. "I've brought you some fresh kill," she meowed to Daisy, placing the mouse next to her. Purring, she settled down on the moss beside the kits. "They look fine now. I'm sure you have enough milk." That's so cute. Ferncloud is like the perfect mom. She just loves kids. I don't see her ever being a warrior because she's always just the mom cat. Leaving them to discuss the kits, Leafpool said goodbye and emerged into the clearing. The weather was still gray and cold, and the trees above her head clashed in the wind. More than half a moon had passed since their encounter on the hillside, but there had been no word from Crowfeather. Half the time, Leafpool drifted around in a haze of happiness, remembering the look in his eyes and the scent of his pelt. But for the rest of the time, she was clawed by guilt that she had agreed to meet him again. If she was a true medicine cat, she wouldn't even be thinking about him. She tried harder than ever to concentrate on her tasks so that she could become the cat she had always longed to be. Besides, she didn't want Cinderpelt to scold her or suspect the Wind Clan warrior was occupying her thoughts. Leafpool padded towards her den, but stopped short as a tortoiseshell cat hurled through the thorn tunnel and skidded to a halt in the middle of the clearing. For an instant, Leafpool thought it was Sorreltail, and her heart lurched at the thought of any harm coming to the kit she was carrying. Then she looked more closely and recognized Mosspelt, a warrior from RiverClan. "Leafpool!" she gasped. "Thanks, StarClan, you're here." "What's the matter?" Leafpool asked. "Mothwing sent me." Mosspelt's chest heaved. "There's sickness in RiverClan. It's bad, very bad." "Mothwing wants me to come?" Mosspelt nodded. "Mothwing says you would understand what the trouble is." Leafpool swallowed, feeling as if a tough piece of fresh kill were stuck in her throat. She understood too well. Feathertail's warning that Two Legs would put RiverClan in great danger had come true. Her dream, her long journey to tell Mothwing, had all been in vain. More cats had begun to gather in the clearing. Firestar appeared on the high ledge with Sandstorm, while Brightheart and several other warriors emerged from the warrior's den. Daisy peered cautiously out of the nursery, then ran across to Cloudtail and began talking urgently to him, twitching her tail anxiously as she spoke. Sootfur and Mosspelt had a hostile Sootfur shot Mosspelt a hostile stare. That's a tongue twister. Sootfur shot Mosspelt a hostile stare. I can't do it. "Why should we send our medicine cat all the way around the lake to help RiverClan? They should find help somewhere else." "Oh, come on," Thornclaw argued. "Wind Clan aren't likely to help, are they? And ShadowClan have never been exactly generous towards other clans." Leafpool was relieved to see Cinderpelt padding across to them. "What's going on? Mosspelt, are you in trouble?" "The whole of RiverClan is in trouble," the she-cat answered, more calmly, now that she had caught her breath. She repeated what she had told Leafpool. "Mothwing's den is full of sick cats," she mewed. "None of them have died yet, but they will die if we don't help." "May I go?" Leafpool begged. She was racked with guilt that she hadn't tried to do anything else to find out what the trouble might be. Perhaps she really was losing her ability to speak with StarClan. "Please, Cinderpelt!" Cinderpelt and Firestar exchanged a long glance. Then the medicine cat meowed. "If Firestar agrees," the clan leader nodded. "We can't refuse to help another clan in trouble. Besides, this sickness, whatever it is, might come here. Leafpool, try to find out everything you can about it." "I will," Leafpool promised. "Are you sure you can manage without me?" She asked Cinderpelt. Because of her lame leg, the medicine cat relied on Leafpool to collect most of the healing herbs they needed. Of course, Cinderpelt replied. ThunderClan is lucky to have 2 medicine cats. A shadow flickered in her eyes. What is that supposed to mean? Brightheart stepped forward. I could help you, Cinderpelt, she offered. I think I know what most of the herbs look like. The common ones, anyway. Thank you, Brightheart. Cinderpelt turned back to Leafpool. There's no reason why you shouldn't go with Mosspelt. But come back as soon as you can, and may StarClan go with you. Leafpool nodded and followed Mosspelt out of the camp. Already she had begun to run through the list of herbs she might need. Juniper, watermint, chervil-root. She shook her head. She couldn't tell what she needed until she had a chance to examine the sick cats. StarClan, I need you now, she prayed silently. Show me what I have to do. A strong wind whisked across the surface of the lake as Leafpool and Mosspelt crossed WindClan territory, buffeting the 2 cats' fur. After her frantic dash to ThunderClan, Mosspelt couldn't manage anything faster than a trot, and Leafpool kept pace with her. There was no point in racing on to RiverClan camp if she arrived too exhausted to help. They were drawing near the horse place when Leafpool heard a yowl from somewhere above them. Glancing around, she spotted a patrol of 4 WindClan cats bounding down the hillside towards them. Her heart lurched as she saw a crowfeather's lean gray shape racing over the turf. She and Mosspelt stopped and waited for the patrol to catch up. Tornir was leading it. Behind him, flanking Crowfeather, came one with Owl Whisker and Webfoot. Greetings, Tornir dipped his head. What are you doing in WindClan territory? His tone was formal, not aggressive, though Leafpool hardly registered his question. She was too conscious of Crowfeather's eyes scorching into her fur, though she dared not speak to him or even look at him with so many other cats around. We're on our way to RiverClan, Mosspelt meowed. She did not tell Tornir why. Leafpool guessed she was in no hurry to let WindClan know that RiverClan had been weakened by sickness. We're staying close to the lake, Leafpool pointed out, just as the leaders decided at the gathering. I can see you are, meowed Tornir. Carry on then, and... What are you staring at her for? Webfoot growled. Aren't there enough cats in WindClan for you to be patting after? Leafpool froze. He was speaking to Crowfeather. She looked at the Grey Warrior and saw her own dismay reflected in his eyes. Great StarClan, Webfoot, Tornir meowed. Don't be more mouse-sprayed than you can help. This is Squirrelflight's sister, remember? Squirrelflight, who Crowfeather went the journey with. Leafpool went limp with relief, breathing out silent thanks to Tornir. That's right, Crowfeather choked out. Say hi to Squirrelflight for me, will you, Leafpool? Sure, Leafpool dipped her head. Mosspelt scraped her claws impatiently on the pebbles. Can we keep going, please? Tornir nodded, waving Leafpool and Mosspelt away with a sweep of his tail. Before Leafpool had taken a couple of paces, she heard a hiss behind her and swung around to see Crowfeather following her. Meet me by the islands at Twlight, he whispered, in a louder meow. Remember to tell Squirrelflight what I said. Yes, I will, Leafpool replied. Guilt and excitement thrilled through her until she felt every hair on her pelt must be sparkling with it. This couldn't be wrong, could it, when it made her so happy? Crowfeather, are you coming? Webfoot yowled. The Grey Warrior darted away without another glance at Leafpool. She bounded along the lake shore to catch up to Mosspelt, feeling as though her paws hardly touched the ground. Long before she and Mosspelt reached the RiverClan camp, Leafpool could smell the sickness. It hung heavily in the air, a stench like rotten carrion. Then an eerie wailing rose above the gurgle of the stream that bordered the camp. Mosspelt shot Leafpool a terrified glance and bounded ahead, splashing through the stream and into the camp. Leafpool followed, hardly noticing the icy water that dragged at her paws and soaked her belly fur. Leopard Star emerged from the ferns at the top of the bank and waited for Leafpool and Mosspelt to reach her. The terrible wailing went on and on. Ivy Tail is dead, Leopard Star announced. Her voice was calm, but Leafpool could see the stark terror behind her eyes. Do you think you can do anything to help us? I don't know until I talk to Mothwing, Leafpool answered. I'll go straight to her den. I know the way. I will send some of my warriors to help you, Leopard Star meowed. Leafpool crossed the camp and picked her way down the bank to Mothwing's den. I need a thorny bush. All thoughts of Crowfeather had vanished from her head. All that mattered was helping these sick cats. On her way, she met Heavy Step and Hot Frost. Heavy Step and Hawk Frost, bearing the limp body of a brown tabby Leafpool didn't recognize. She stood aside to let them pass, her head respectfully bowed. Leafpool! It was Mothwing's voice, high and panicky. The RiverClan medicine cat flung herself out of the den and pressed her muzzle into Leafpool's fur. I knew you would come! Leafpool inhaled her friend's fear scent, stronger even than the reek of sickness. Tell me what the matter is, she mewed. They're all dying! Mothwing's wide blue eyes were distraught. I don't know what I can do. Mothwing, calm down, she ordered. Your clan will give up completely if they see their medicine cat panicking. You must be strong for their sake. Mothwing took a couple of gulping breaths. I'm sorry, she mewed after a moment. You're right, Leafpool. I'm okay now. Tell me what's been happening, Leafpool repeated. Come and see. Mothwing led Leafpool to her den. Close to the entrance, sheltered by the twisted branches of the thorn tree, a small black kit lay in a mossy nest. Its eyes were closed, and Leafpool had to watch closely for a few moments before she saw its shallow breathing. Beside it were two other kits, another black one, unconscious like the first, but breathing more strongly, and a gray one thrashing back and forth, its jaws gaping in a feeble wail. Further along the bank, beyond the den, four warriors lay in rough nests of dry bracken, along with a younger cat who looked like an apprentice. Leafpool recognized Dawnflower's pale gray pelt and Voltooth, who had recently been made a warrior. What the heck? She was fine the other day. I guess technically that was like half a moon ago. She crouched down beside Dawnflower, who was nearest, and extended one paw to pat her belly gently. Dawnflower moaned and tried to pull away from her. Leafpool gave her a soothing lick and then sat and looked up at Mothwing. It reminds me of the time the elders were sick from drinking poisoned water, she meowed, but the scent isn't quite the same. I wonder... But that was my fault, Mothwing wailed. I should have smelled there was a dead rabbit in the pool. Not when your paws were covered in mouse bile, Leafpool reminded her, and the sickness isn't your fault either. It is! Mothwing dug her claws into the earth. If I were a true medicine cat, I would know what to do for my clan. That's nonsense, Leafpool mewed sharply. You are a true medicine cat. You've done nothing to cause the sickness, but we will need to find out where it comes from. I haven't had time to check it anywhere on the territory, not since the first cats fell ill, Mothwing admitted, but all the streams are running clear, and there's no sign of two-leg rubbish in the lake. She scrubbed the ground again with her claws. I'm a useless medicine cat. Mudfur should have never chosen me. That's nonsense too, and you know it, Leafpool meowed, more gently, brushing her tail against Mothwing's pelt. What about the moth's wing that Mudfur found outside his den? It was a clear sign from StarClan that they wanted you to be his apprentice. Mothwing looked as if she were about to protest, but Leafpool went on rapidly. Tell me what you've been doing for these sick cats. I gave them watermint for bellyache, and when that didn't work, I tried juniper berries. That seemed to soothe the pain a bit, but the cats didn't get better. Leafpool ran her list of remedies through her mind. If they've eaten something poisonous, then we should try and make them bring it up. Have you gotten any yarrow leaves? A few, Mothwing replied. Not enough for every cat, though. Then some cat will have to go fetch some more. While she was speaking, Leafpool saw Mistyfoot and a young black warrior she didn't know padding down the slope towards her. Mistyfoot waved her tail in greeting. Leopardstar sent us to help you, she meowed. Thanks, Leafpool replied. We need yarrow leaves. I'll go get some. Oh, I'll go get some, the Black Tom offered immediately. Dipping his head to Leafpool, he added, You don't remember me, do you? Scanning his slender figure and small, neat ears, Leafpool felt as if she should recognize him, but she couldn't remember his name. She shook her head. Sorry. I'm Reed Whisker, the black warrior mewed. You saved me when I nearly drowned, back in our old home. He was Reedpaw then, Mistyfoot added. Surprise silenced Leafpool for a moment, as she remembered the cat Mistyfoot had dragged out of the flooded river. Mothwing hadn't known what to do to get the young kit breathing again, and Leafpool had been forced to take over. The spirit of Spotted Leaf had been close beside her all the time, guiding her paw until it was clear that the apprentice would live. I'm glad to see you again, she mewed briefly, not wanting to remind Mothwing of another occasion when she had panicked. We need as much yarrow as you can carry, and quickly. Do you know where to find it? There are some good clumps near the horse place fence. Mothwing put in before he could reply. Reed Whisker waved his tail. I'm on my way. I've got an apprentice of my own now, he added. Ripplepaw. I'll take her with me so we can carry more. Juniper berries too, Leafpool called after him as the slender warrior whipped back around and raced off. There are bushes near the top of the slope above the marshes. Reed Whisker flicked his tail to show he heard and vanished over the top of the bank. Right, Mothwing. Leafpool meowed when he had gone. Where's the yarrow you do have? You can get started while we wait for Reed Whisker to come back. Tell me what I can do first, Mistyfoot mewed. Are there any other herbs you need? Not right now, Leafpool answered, but you could check the territory for anything that might have caused this. Mistyfoot looked puzzled. What kind of thing am I looking for? Leafpool shook her head, careful to say nothing that would reveal the warning dream that had come to her and not RiverClan's own medicine cat. I wish I could tell you. Anything unusual, especially anything that doesn't smell right. Look for something that Two Legs might have done or left behind. Two Legs around here? Mistyfoot put her head on one side. Well, you know best, I suppose. Let's send out all the cats we can spare. She cast a sorrowful look at the row of sick cats laying on the bank of the stream, then disappeared over the top of the bank. Meanwhile, Mothwing had retreated into her den and came back with a bunch of yarrow leaves, which she dropped at Leafpool's paws. Leafpool blinked in dismay at how few they were, but at least they looked reasonably fresh. Okay, let's treat the kits first, she meowed. There's enough here for all three of them, and with any luck, Reed Whisker will be back soon. She nosed the gray kit, who was still writhing in pain and letting out faint mewling sounds. A chill crept over her as she realized he had weakened even in the short time since she had first seen him. Help me move him over here, she directed Mothwing. We don't want him vomiting in a place where he's got to sleep. As gently as they could, the two she-cats moved the kit closer to the bank of the stream and laid him on a soft cushion of moss. Leafpool chewed up a single yarrow leaf, being careful to spit out all the scraps. Then she stuffed the pulp into the kit's wide-open mouth. Swallow it, she ordered, although she wasn't sure if the kit could hear her. The tiny throat convulsed as the kit tried to spit out the scraps of bitter-tasting leaf, but some must have gone down, because a moment later he vomited up several mouthfuls of evil-smelling mucus. His cries died down, and he lay limp and shivering, blinking at Leafpool. Well done. Leafpool stroked one paw over his head. Now, I want you to eat one juniper berry for me, and then you can go to sleep. Mothwing? The RiverClan medicine cat was already at her side with the juniper berry. She crushed it carefully and held it to where the kit could lick it up, massaging his throat to make sure he swallowed it. Her soothing purr, so different from her earlier panic, quieted the tiny kit, and he was asleep by the time Leafpool and Mothwing moved him back to his nest. I think he'll be okay, murmured Leafpool, sending up a silent prayer to Starkland. Let's treat the next one. The next kit was still sleeping, but she stirred as the two medicine cats moved her to the edge of the bank. My belly hurts, she moaned. This'll make it better, Leafpool promised, stuffing another yarrow leaf in the kit's mouth. Instantly, the kit spat it out. Yuck! It's horrible! Minnow Kit, do as you're told and eat it, Mothwing mewed sharply. Don't want... The kit's protest was interrupted by a feeble wail as her belly was seized up by another cramp. Mothwing took the chance to stuff the yarrow leaf back into her mouth, while Leafpool stroked her throat. Minnow Kit wailed again, and like the first kit, soon brought up reeking mucus. Now you can have a juniper berry, Mothwing meowed, popping it in swiftly as Minnow Kit opened her mouth to protest. Juniper's horrible, Minnow Kit murmured, her voice fading as she drifted, still complaining, into sleep. Leafpool and Mothwing dragged her back to the nest and examined the third kit, the one who seemed the weakest. Mothwing's eyes were huge with distress. I think she's dead. Leafpool bent over the tiny kit and felt her whiskers stirred by a faint breath. No, she's still alive. She tried to sound hopeful, though privately she was afraid the kit was well on the way to joining the ranks of StarClan. Not if I can help it, she decided. I don't think we should try moving her, though, she warned. Fetch a dock leaf, and she can vomit onto that. Mothwing hurried over to where the docks grew at the edge of the stream and bit through the stem of a large leaf. Meanwhile, Leafpool chewed up more yarrow. All her efforts to rouse the kit failed, so Mothwing had to part the kit's jaws while Leafpool forced the yarrow as far down her throat as she could. The kit retched feebly and spat out a few scraps of yarrow mixed with mucus onto the dock leaf before lying still. That's not enough, Mothwing mewed worriedly. No, but it's better than nothing. We'll let her rest for a while, then try again. There were only 2 yarrow leaves left. We should treat Beachpaw next, Mothwing decided, pointing her tail to where the young cat lay at the end of the row of sick warriors. He's the weakest, except for the kits. She picked up the remaining yarrow in her jaws and patted off. Leafpool was about to go with her when Mistyfoot reappeared at the top of the bank, her sides heaving. Leafpool, she panted, I found something. Will you come and see? Leafpool glanced at Mothwing, who had also heard the deputy's arrival and turned to listen. Come on, Leafpool, she urged. I'll be fine here. Leafpool made one last swift check at the sleeping kits, then climbed the bank to join Mistyfoot. To her relief, she spotted Reed Whisker and a silver-pelted apprentice padding across the camp, their jaws full of yarrow. That's great, she exclaimed. Take it straight to Mothwing, please. No problem, Reed Whisker mumbled around his mouth of stems. We'll fetch your juniper next. The RiverClan deputy led Leafpool along the top of the bank as far as the barrier of thorns that stretched from stream to stream, blocking off the camp from intruders. When the 2 cats had pushed their way through a narrow tunnel, carved around by many sleek bodies, Mistyfoot followed the smaller stream up a steep slope in the direction of the ShadowClan border. Soon the slope became an almost sheer, sandy cliff with jutting rocks that cats could climb, while the stream cascaded down beside them in a waterfall. Leafpool slowed down, careful not to slip on the wet stone. Mistyfoot waited for her at the top, where the stream gushed out of the hillside between moss-covered boulders. Not far now, she promised. Leafpool paused to catch her breath and taste the air. She caught a faint hint of the thunderpath that formed the border between RiverClan and ShadowClan, but the scent of monsters was faint and stale, as if nothing had been there for many days. Her ears pricked as she identified another scent, unfamiliar, but reminding her of the reek of sickness around Mothwing's den. She glanced at Mistyfoot. This way, the deputy meowed. The stench grew stronger as they approached the border with ShadowClan. Leafpool was starting to wonder if the problem lay in RiverClan's territory at all when Mistyfoot swerved around a hazel thicket and headed back into her own territory. Hawkfrost and Blackclaw were waiting a few fox lengths away, in a small clearing enclosed by brambles. Hawkfrost swung to face them as they approached, neck for bristling, then relaxed when he saw who they were. Nothing to report, he mewed. Everything's been quiet since you left. No sign of ShadowClan, Blackclaw added. Leafpool wondered why the RiverClan warrior was so worried about ShadowClan. They hadn't crossed the border between the territories. Perhaps he wanted to blame ShadowClan for the sickness. This has nothing to do with ShadowClan, Mistyfoot mewed sharply. It's a 2-leg thing, just like you said, Leafpool. Come and see, but don't get too close. Hawkfrost and Blackclaw stepped aside to reveal a smooth, round object the size of a badger lying at the far side of the clearing, half hidden by brambles. It was hard and shiny, like the 2-leg monsters. As Leafpool crept towards it, she saw that in one place the smooth surface was crushed and broken. A sticky liquid oozed out of a crack, dripping down the side to form a silvery green puddle. Oil! Traces of the liquid on the grass further away suggested that cats or some other animal had trodden in the puddle and picked up some of the sticky stuff on their paws. Leafpool opened her jaws to speak and coughed as the reek hit her throat. This must be it, she gasped. That stuff could kill a cat. It even looks evil. And it smells vile, Hawkfrost growled, his nose wrinkled in disgust. I don't get it, Blackclaw argued. Surely no cat would be mouse-brained enough to drink that. Mouse-brain yourself, Mistyfoot retorted. Can't you see cats must have picked it up on their pads? You tread in it accidentally, you lick yourself clean, and there you are. Other animals would tread in it too, Leafpool agreed. Mice, for example. If cats killed them and ate them, they would pick up the poison that way. Mistyfoot looked horrified. That means it could be all over our whole territory by now. I don't think it's as bad as that, Leafpool told her. You'll need to warn every cat to keep away from this area for a while, but any prey that picked it up would die before they had a chance to travel that far. I don't think there's much risk they'll be caught as fresh kill anywhere else. Mistyfoot nodded. I'll tell Leopardstar right away. It's about time,
Hawkfrost commented in a low voice to Blacklaw. If the patrols had been properly organized, we would have found this long ago.
Leafpool froze. Patrols were the deputy's responsibility. Hawkfrost was criticizing Mistyfoot practically to her face. She remembered that back in the old forest, Mistyfoot had been trapped by Two Legs, and while she was away, Hawkfrost had been made RiverClan deputy in her place. Becoming an ordinary warrior again when Mistyfoot returned must have been hard for Hawkfrost, but that was no excuse for undermining Mistyfoot's authority to other cats. What he said wasn't even true. A clan's territory was too big for patrols to find every single hazard right away. Blackclaw was nodding in agreement, with a hostile glance at the blue-furred she-cat. Do you think Hawkfrost should still be the deputy? Leafpool wondered. Was Hawkfrost trying to gain followers who were loyal to him alone and not to the clan? Mistyfoot had begun to pad away, back to the camp. If she had noticed the exchange, she gave no sign of it.
We'll find some thorns and build a barrier around the thing, Hawkfrost offered, calling after her. Come on, Blackclaw. He added more softly, we don't want any animals coming near it, cats or prey. Some cat has to look out for the clan.
He bounded over to the nearest thicket and started clawing at a dead thorn branch. Blackclaw followed and helped to drag it back to the two-legged thing with his stinking pool. Wash your paws when you finish, Leafpool advised, trying to pretend she hadn't heard what Hawkfrost said. Don't lick them.
Good thinking,
Hawkfrost replied as he went off to find another branch. Leafpool ran to catch up with Mistyfoot. There's one thing I don't understand, she meowed, as the choking stench began to die away behind them.
Something happened in the other room.
How did these kids get ill? Surely they're too young to be this far from the nursery. Mistyfoot let out an exasperated sigh. The other day they ran away from camp and went exploring on their own. It was Minnowkit's idea. She can think of more ways of getting into trouble than there are stars in Silverpelt. The sooner she has a mentor to keep an eye on her, the happier I'll be. They're too young to have caught any prey around here, so they must have found that two-leg thing. Leafpool shivered at the thought of the young kids sticking their paws into the vile green liquid. They never told any cat what they had found? When Mistyfoot shook her head, Leafpool went on. The other cats must have gotten sick from poisoned prey, or they would have reported the two-leg thing to Leopard Star. The kids never said a word, Mistyfoot agreed. I was furious when I caught them trying to sneak back to camp. They probably thought they were in enough trouble already. She stopped suddenly. Dawnflower is their mother. She gave them a good licking when they got back, and she was the first full-grown cat to fall ill. That makes sense, Leafpool meowed. I'll have to have a word with those kits when they wake up. They will wake up? I think so. Leafpool didn't mention the black kit who hadn't responded to the Yarrow treatment. Mothwing needed more help than she alone could provide to save some of those fragile lives. With the help of StarClan, she added quietly. The day was nearly over when the two cats returned to the RiverClan camp. The setting sun was a sullen red glow behind bars of cloud. Leafpool had hardly noticed time passing. It seemed no more than a few heartbeats since Mosspelt had dashed into the stone hollow. At least the camp was quiet. No eerie wailing signaled another death. Most cats were settling into their dens for the night, although 2 or 3 still crouched beside the fresh kill pile. That reminds me, Leafpool meowed. It would be a good idea to go through the fresh kill pile and throw out anything with that scent on it. Mistyfoot nodded. I'll check the camp too, in case any cat has brought that stuff in on their paws, and every cat should check themselves and wash off the scent downstream if they have it. She headed towards Leopard Star's den to report to her leader. Leafpool watched her go, and then she slipped over the top of the bank and down to where Mothwing stooped over the sick cats. How's it going? She asked, joining the RiverClan medicine cat who was examining Dawnflower. Okay, I think. No cat has died, though Heavystep has fallen ill. She pointed with her tail to where the big tabby elder was curled up on the bank. I've given him Yarrow, and he doesn't seem as bad as some of the others. We found what the problem is, Leafpool told Mothwing. So it was 2 legs. Wait, sorry. We found out what the problem was.
Leafpool told Mothwing. She described the shiny two-legged thing and the greenish liquid that was seeping out of it. Mothwing shuddered. So it was Two Legs who brought the trouble. Her blue gaze locked with Leafpool's. Then she flicked her tail. Come and check the cats. Leafpool had hardly begun to sniff Dawnflower when she glimpsed movement in the corner of her eye. A kit was standing at the other end of the line of sick cats. In the twilight, Leafpool could only just make out her grayish-white pelt. At first she thought it must be one of Dawnflower's litter making a spectacular recovery, but this kit was older, and she didn't look ill at all.
Mothwing, over here!
The kit called urgently. Who's that? Leafpool asked, following Mothwing as she began to pick her way around the sleeping bodies. Willowkit, Mothwing replied. Her eyes glowed with affection as she reached the pale gray kit and looked down at her. Mosspelt's daughter. She often comes to help me, and she already knows nearly all the herbs.
Oh, Willowkit's probably going to be the next medicine cat. So cute.
Willowkit, this is Leafpool from ThunderClan. Willowkit dipped her head.
Mothwing, I think you ought to look at Beachpaw,
she urged. The apprentice was lying on his side, his limbs splayed out, his claws scraping feebly at the ground. His chest heaved and he was struggling to breathe, his wide open eyes were glazed.
What's the matter with him?
Willowkit asked, her eyes huge with anxiety.
And the others are like this.
Mothwing hesitated, and it was Leafpool who spoke first. Did you give him juniper? Yes, for the bellyache, Mothwing replied. It ought to help his breathing as well. I wish we had Clotsfoot, she added with a frustrated lash of her tail. The flowers are up, but it's the leaves we need. They won't appear for another moon. Leafpool couldn't see the point of wishing for a herb that wasn't in season. Beachpaw's efforts to breathe were already growing weaker. If they didn't think of something soon, he would die in front of them. Suppose this wasn't caused by the two-leg stuff at all. It might be a completely new problem, and Beachpaw didn't have much time for them to find the answer. Could there be something stuck in his throat? She suggested. This didn't look like an ordinary choking, but with Beachpaw's weakened already by the poison, he might not be able to cough up an extraction. Mothwing prized open the apprentice's jaw, holding him firmly as he withered to free himself. Leafpool peered down his throat. There's something there, but so far down.
Let me try.
Instantly, Willowkit poked her slender paw down Beachpaw's throat, let out a faint sound of satisfaction, and withdrew it to show a wad of half-chewed yarrow leaves hooked into her claws. Well done! Meowed Leafpool. As Mothwing released him, Beachpaw collapsed, trembling and drawing in great gasping breaths. Willowkit, fetch him some water, Mothwing directed. The kit darted to the edge of the stream, tore off a clump of hanging moss, dipped it in water. Within heartbeats, she was back, squeezing a few drops into Beachpaw's mouth. Gradually, his sides stopped heaving, his trembling died away, and he shifted into a more comfortable, curled-up position with his eyes closed. Mothwing touched Willowkit on the shoulder with the tip of her tail. You saved Beachpaw's life, she mewed. I'll make sure he knows when he wakes up. Willowkit's eyes blazed with happiness.
Is this what it's like to be a medicine cat? She asked. It's the best thing ever.
I know. Leafpool let out a sympathetic purr. I remember the first time I put burdock root on a rat bite. I could hardly believe it when the wound started healing. And don't forget when you saved Reed Whisker when he nearly drowned, Mothwing meowed. You were only an apprentice then. Leafpaw blinked warmly at her friend, grateful that Mothwing was generous enough to remind her. There's no feeling like being able to help your clanmates, she told Willowkit. I can't think of any other way I'd rather live my life. But you can't save lives every day, Mothwing teased, with an affectionate glance at Willowkit. There are routine jobs to do.
But those jobs are important, aren't they?
Willowkit mewed. Of course they are, Mothwing assured her. And I want you to do an important job for me now. Stay here with Beachpaw and call me right away if there's any change in his breathing.
Yes, Mothwing.
Willowkit sat beside the apprentice, her tail wrapped around her paws and her eyes fixed intently on him. Mothwing and Leafpool left her while they checked on the other cats. Leafpool couldn't help wondering whether Mothwing had already found the perfect apprentice, and then she asked herself how Mothwing would train an apprentice at all, when she couldn't pass any knowledge of StarClan. She forced the problem to the back of her mind as she and Mothwing examined the sick cats. All of them were sleeping. Leafpool started to believe that they would all recover, though Dawnflower still was very weak.
Last they came to the three kits in the mossy nest by Mothwing's den. The little gray Tom was sleeping, but Mothwing had her eyes open. Oh, Minnow Kit had her eyes open. I'm hungry, she wailed. That's a good sign, Leafpool commented to Mothwing. It means the poison's gone. Your mother can't feed you now, Mothwing meowed, with a glance at Dawnflower's unmoving shape. You can have a drink of water if you want one. Minnow Kit looked ready to complain again, then staggered to her paws and trotted a few paw steps to the stream, where she crouched down to lap. Leafpool kept an eye on her in case she had lost balance and fell into the water. Leafpool. Mothwing's voice was tight and quiet. Leafpool glanced around. Mothwing had bent to sniff the weakest kit. She looked up, grief dulling her blue eyes. You must have been too late with the yarrow. She's dead.
Dun, 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 dun.
Leafpool nosed the tiny body, but Mothwing was right. The kit had gone to join the ranks of StarClan. Take care of her, Leafpool prayed. She's so little. Minnow Kit had finished drinking and was staggering up the bank again. Don't say anything, Leafpool whispered urgently to Mothwing, pulling up a covering moss to hide the motionless scrap of fur. They'll be stronger in the morning, and maybe Dawnflower will be awake to comfort them. Minnow Kit, she went on, as the tiny black she-cat settled herself again in the soft moss. Did you and your little mates find something unusual that day you ran away from camp? Something two legs left behind. Minnow Kit's eyes stretched wide. You know about that? Leafpool nodded. I've seen it too. Did you touch the sticky stuff? When Minnow Kit hesitated, she added, Don't worry, you won't get in trouble. The black kit hesitated for a heartbeat longer. Okay, we did touch it, she admitted. We played at running through it and making paw marks on the glass. And I dared Pebble Kit to drink some. Mothwing drew in a shocked breath. How could you be so mouse-brained? And did he drink it? Leafpool prompted, silencing Mothwing with a swift glance. We all did. Minnow Kit's nose wrinkled in disgust. It was yucky. You know that's what made you ill, don't you? Mothwing mewed. Minnow Kit stared at her in dismay. We didn't know. That's why you must never touch anything strange, Leafpool told her. When you're an apprentice and you're allowed out of camp on your own, you must report everything you find to your mentor. Even in your territory, not everything is safe. Promise? Okay. Minnow Kit mewed, her eyes closed and then blinked open again. Is this all my fault? Leafpool shook her head. There would be time enough for Minnow Kit to blame herself when she discovered her sister was dead. No, little one, go to sleep now. I don't know how you can be so kind. Oh, I don't know how you can be so kind to them, Mothwing hissed when the kit was asleep again. I'd like to claw their ears off. All this trouble, and cats died. You know you wouldn't really hurt them, Leafpool replied. They're only kits. They didn't know what they were doing. And anyway, it's not their fault. Dawnflower probably got the poison from them, but the rest of the cats must have picked it up by themselves, or eaten prey that was tainted with it. I know, Mothwing sighed, but you'd think they'd have more sense. Her jaws parted in an enormous yawn. You're worn out, Leafpool mewed. Why don't you get some sleep too? I'll watch and wake you in moon high. Mothwing yawned again. Okay, thanks, Leafpool. Thanks for everything. She padded into her den under the roots of the bush. Leafpool took one last look at the sick cats. All of them were sleeping quietly, even Beachcaw. Snow halation! He's doing fine, she murmured to Willow Kit. I'll look after him now. You can go back to the nursery to your mother. Make sure you tell her how well you did. Willow Kit dipped her head, eyes shining, and dashed off up the bank. Leafpool settled down beside the sleeping apprentice, tucking her paws under her. Above her head, the stars of silver blazed down, scattering around the bulging shape of the moon, which was almost full. Leafpaw set up a wordless prayer to StarClan, a surge of thankfulness that at last
RiverClan's sickness seemed to be under control. Only then did she realize that she had completely forgotten to meet Crowfeather at Twilight. Is that why the book is called Twilight? Oh my god. Wait. Did they all have a moment? Did each book had a moment at a certain specific time? I can't believe I didn't realize that until just now. What the heck? All right, well, close enough to page 200 that I think we can stop for today.
It was really quiet today. Also, why the heck is my chat not moving anymore? I would like to see what my kind friends say. But apparently, no. Hi, send message. Hello? Excuse me? Excuse me? Excuse me? Hello? I hope this, honestly, I really hope that this chat winds up working better than it has been, because I paid good money for it. I paid good money. Sneef, sneef. I am not. Stream Deck isn't working, so I have to go look at people who are being live. Bunny Peep! Oh my gosh, Bunny Peep's playing Lethal Company. Which, speaking of which, we're gonna be playing Lethal Company on Friday. I know everybody is playing Lethal Company right now, but like, it is what it is. It's a fun game. I played a little bit the other day and I died every single time. So I hope that in the future I won't die as many times. But Fia's playing Bug Fables. Okay, let's raid. Oh, but Echo's playing Sly Cooper. Aw, thing is so difficult. Slay the Princess. Wait, let's raid. Let's do that one. I really want to play Slay the Princess in the future. So let's raid Nayospide. Yeah. Then there's the rain message. I think most of you guys are lurking right now, but fantastic news in the wait, invalid username. Oh dang it, I messed it up. Raid Nayo Speedy. Ah, there we go. In the future we're gonna be I got really cool emotes that are in the works right now by artists that I've wanted to commission but always miss the chance because literally the second that they open commissions, 15 minutes later they're closed because that's how fast they go. And I managed to get a slot. So I'm really excited. And it should be done within 20 days. So I'll have them in 20 days and maybe that'll be around the time that Twitch has new things going on. Like I think they're putting forward some sort of business with more emotes. So that'll be fun to do. Zoom was your most used emote across other channels in the last 30 days, 166 times. Nice! All right, guys, you guys are off now. I forgot to go to my ending screen. We'll go to that now. I'll see you guys on Friday with Serin and Dun and maybe somebody else. Maybe Vic. We'll see.